Well, thank you, Krista and Kristen, for joining me this evening on this episode to talk about C-sections and how men can essentially be a champion for you guys during this time. What are some things that you can coach us up on? How we can be a support system, and then also talk to me about like what that journey was like. So, like, you know, I know here's a couple things I'll share before we kind of dive into it, and then I would love to hear each one of you share your story of your and your journey of how you went through a C-section. But what I do know for sure is in the United States, C-sections are going up dramatically, and they're upwards in the range of about 20 to 30%. So roughly one out of every three um, deliveries will end in a C-section, and that's good for in cases where it needs to be done. But like, there is a question of like, hey, why are so many women being led down that path? So hoping that you guys could also shed some light on like where things kind of maybe took you down that path. So how about we start with who wants to go first? Gonna rock, paper, scissors it or
I mean, I guess I can go unless you want
all right. Kristen,
to.
okay, go. No, you had your baby first.
I did. Yeah, I did. Uh, well, I was 1 week past my due date.
Well,
I
take us from the
went
beginning.
from the
Take us from the
beginning.
beginning. So like,
Like conception?
Yeah,
yeah,
like
let's
you want to
start from the
know. You want to know what
beginning. So
happened?
I was so like, no, I don't want to know.
Did no one have this
I
talk with you?
don't want to know. Go to the How
I
much
mean,
I've explained. No, but I mean like okay, so like when like what month did you roughly get pregnant and like when were you scheduled to when were you scheduled to
so
deliver or were you planned to be delivered?
so I got pregnant probably end of May, beginning of June. I didn't find out I was
Okay.
pregnant until end of June. Went to the doctor
Oh.
July 1st. And funny enough, I was with you guys when I knew I was pregnant, confirmed that I was pregnant, and we were all together for the fireworks in Shelton. I had to
Okay.
secretly order.
Oh, second. So like first of all, you did a really good job because I remember that year I mean that was 22, right? Yeah, 22. That you got pregnant, right? So I remember that year, and I remember yes, we all did go to the fireworks. Melissa came, and I think Krista,
It
I think
smelled weird
you
up.
weren't feeling well that night. So you're saying you knew before the fireworks. What made you want to go to the doctor?
Well, so I took a test at home. Um,
Did you feel butterflies or like?
I was very nauseous for like 2 weeks straight. I had a really bad taste aversion to like a ton of food that I normally love to eat. And thought that was really weird. Like I remember ordering Chinese food and I could barely eat it. I thought it was the most disgusting thing in the world. We had gone to Boston for a concert and we went to go eat lunch and we were eating like dinner before. And I remember both times I like did not want any of the food. Nothing appealed to me, which I never really had a problem with before. So for me to like feel that and then just have that like nauseous feeling all the time, I decided to take a test. And the test came out positive. So I called the doctor and I ended up getting in like that Friday. So before I saw you guys that day, I was at the doctor for my first ultrasound. And they confirmed I was pregnant.
How,
They did not give me a due date at that point, but when I first saw them and like met with the doctor, I was given February 24th, I think it was. And then I switched doctors and I went to a different doctor and they gave me a different due date. It was the 28th. Yeah, the 28th. So my pregnancy was fine pretty much for the most part. My first trimester, I was very sick. I was very tired. I've never been that sick or tired my whole life. And I never want to feel that again, to be honest with you.
did you go to the doctor? Like how frequently did you go see your doctor?
Well, so I would go a little bit more frequently because I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I'm technically considered high risk. I wasn't.
Is that like a fibroid or is it a cyst?
It's so everybody has cysts on their ovaries, but when you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, you have multiple, I guess, like just way more than anybody else would have, is basically what it is. And it causes a lot of other issues. So infertility is one of the big things that people have that have PCOS. They tend to have problems getting pregnant. So the fact that I was able to get pregnant so easily and struggle and have to go through fertility treatments and all of that was like big for somebody with PCOS. So there's a whole other slew of symptoms that you can have when you have PCOS, but that's one of the big ones. So because I have
Question for you. And
PCOS,
did you
yeah,
know about PCOS for
yeah,
the pregnancy or or
I
during?
did. I know, I knew I had it
Okay.
already.
So you
Yeah.
knew. Okay. Is that typical something like women would know, or is that something like unique that you were maybe looking for or trying to inquire about when you went to see the doctor?
No, so there's really like a standard checklist kind of for somebody that could possibly have it. One of the big things, one of the bigger symptoms is irregular periods. So if you have irregular periods and then they're coupled with, you know, a handful of other symptoms, what adult acne, I think, is one of them. Hair growth, irregular hair growth. So like having chin hairs or facial hair that isn't normal for a woman. It's kind of like you have more testosterone in your body almost, that like your body doesn't know how to handle it.
That explains all those teachers.
So that's like once they start to ask you, like, do you have X, Y, and Z? That's how they can kind of diagnose you. They can also do, well, they do blood work as well. So they'll have you do a glucose test to officially confirm that you have it. So I did the test, like I have all the symptoms that are typical of somebody with PCOS. So I knew that, and I wasn't at the age yet where I would be considered geriatric. So I wasn't high risk for that reason, but I was high risk because of my PCOS. So I saw the doctor a little bit more. I wouldn't say it was like anything crazy. You know, I think I had a few more ultrasounds than a normal pregnancy would. And I was also obese by the BMI standard. So that was another reason why I was high risk. So I was more susceptible to developing gestational diabetes. So I had to have glucose tests throughout, which is, you know, at the 26-week mark, that's normal. And I failed my 1 hour test. I had to do the 3 hour test, and my numbers
Really,
were
dude? Like,
just,
you had
yeah,
26
it
weeks
was
to
rough.
study.
It
What's
was rough.
going on?
I thought I was going to die at one point. But I had, so the doctor in the practice that I saw at that point who had gotten my test results freaked out and was like, you have gestational diabetes, 1,000%.
I remember this.
And you need to go see a nutritionist. And I fell just below the threshold for somebody who has gestational diabetes. So when she called the doctors at Yale, they said, no, she doesn't meet the criteria for gestational diabetes. And she refused to accept that news. And I'm like, well, I don't meet the criteria. So I met with a nutritionist. I told her what I was eating on a daily basis. And she said, you're doing nothing wrong. Continue doing what you're doing. You do not have diabetes. You do not give up carbs. That was one thing the doctor told me, was that I'm eating too many carbs. And in fact, that's actually inaccurate. If you stop eating carbs when you have gestational diabetes, you're really not doing anything to help yourself. So I
So is that
stuck with
like
the
a pro
diet I was
tip?
on.
Would you say that's like a pro tip for women? Like, you know,
Well,
keep
I
maintaining the
don't
carbs.
It kind of depends on your.
yeah, I would say, you know, obviously, of course, talk to your doctor, or if they do refer you to a nutritionist, let them tell you because they're the professional. But I had the doctor telling me that I needed to stop eating carbs, and the nutritionist was like, no, you don't. That's the worst thing you can do. So, you know, certainly don't, depending on your health problems. I don't have any other underlying health conditions outside of that that are related or would be related to diabetes. So for me, like to give up carbs would have done, I don't know if I would say more damage, but it wouldn't have been beneficial for me. You need carbs. Everybody needs some type of carb in their diet on a daily basis. So, you know, it's not to say that you shouldn't have any or you should continue eating, you know, pasta for every meal. But that's what I was told, was that don't stop what you're doing. Like I was eating, a wrap every morning for breakfast with eggs and pretty much just having like whatever I had on hand for lunch, whatever I had on hand for dinner. So I was doing what I was supposed to. I wasn't, eating anything out of the ordinary or anything extreme that could eventually cause the diabetes. So that was really it. Like I didn't have any real complications during the pregnancy. My son was healthy throughout, growing like he should. I got to my 40-week appointment, and it was my actual due date. And the doctor said, we can do one of two things. You can either wait it out and see if he comes naturally, or we can induce you if, in the next few days he doesn't come. So that was a Tuesday. And on Friday, yeah.
Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So just to go back real quick to when you were getting this like triage of information regarding gestational diabetes, right? It sounded like you got one set of information where it said that, hey, you have a huge problem, and then you had two other sets of information that says, no, you're completely fine. Like, how do you like how do you figure out like which way to go, who's right? Because now you're getting two versus one. And one of the issues I've struggled with, and I think other men would struggle with too, is like what do you do with this information, right? Because you assume that everybody is a professional, everybody knows what's best for you, and it's like it's probably like the toughest feeling to feel like, okay, I've got conflicting points, and something that I would feel should be very black and white. Like, do I have it? Do I not? Like, what do I do here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this case, I kind of went with, the science, the facts. Like they have a certain,
Right.
you get blood work for this. Like this is how they determine it. And there is a certain threshold. Now, at one point, my numbers would have fallen within the criteria for gestational diabetes, but they changed it. And I did not meet those numbers. So doctors at the hospital and the nutritionist both said, you do not have this. So I think my doctor, this particular doctor, was putting her personal emotion into it because she actually had gestational diabetes when she was pregnant. And I think she just led with her emotion versus like just letting it be that this is this is the result and this is what the paperwork says and these are, the facts. So
Very sensitive.
yes,
Maybe
very.
like
She was
her own journey.
and she was very emotional about it. She got really like irate at the fact that they wouldn't like accept that I was so close to that threshold. And she was the only doctor. When I talked to the other doctors in the practice, they all agreed with the doctors at Yale too. So it wasn't like everybody was going against the doctors at Yale and she was the only one pushing for it, or she really was the only one going against it. Even the other doctors I talked to said, no, you don't have it. So don't worry about it. So yeah, I mean, after that, I, clearly continued whatever I was doing. And then I got to that 40-week appointment, and that was a Tuesday, I believe. And that Friday, they called me to say, you know, we'll probably schedule you for this weekend for a C-section or an induction.
I think that's a big point. Is like a C-section is its own thing, but like induction
is different.
Is separate.
Yes.
That's
So
good. So
yeah.
So the induction is versus this. Can you break it down for me?
So
Induction.
yeah, so induction is where they will admit you to the hospital and they will start the process to basically soften your cervix and kind of get you ready for labor.
Induce
Yeah.
labor sooner than your body is ready.
They force labor. A C-section is
Sounds
the
like
surgery.
slavery. Forced labor.
Yeah. So yeah, so they start doing all of these things to get your body to the point where you're gonna eventually be ready to have that baby. And they try to do it, I mean, I guess as naturally as they can, in the sense that like they want you to go into labor by these methods.
Yeah, there's a difference between like an emergency C-section,
Yes,
where the baby or the mother is in jeopardy, and like inducing a woman's labors, activating all those hormones that it takes to have the labor process.
Got it. So you're in case they're just lighting the match to kind of get the fire going. Like
pretty
they're
much.
not like saying, oh, "Come here and like let's cut you open." They're just like, "No, we're just gonna light the match and see if baby wants to come.
Yep. Yeah. So I was, because I wasn't a dire case, they basically said, like, we'll call you on Sunday and we'll let you know if you can come in, and we'll tell you what time to be here. And if there are other more severe cases, like emergency C-sections, that we have to have these women come in, you'll get bumped. So I sat around all Sunday waiting, not knowing whether or not they were going to call me and tell me to come in. And they finally called at like 5 o'clock and said, we want you in at 9 o'clock tonight. So packed our stuff and, went down to the hospital. So I ended up with a Foley catheter, which is like a balloon that they insert above your cervix to kind of put pressure on the cervix to start opening up. So that happened Sunday night. Monday morning, I had not dilated at all. So the doctor came in and kind of like adjusted the Foley to start
And are they
kind of.
explaining everything, like the whole process? Are they kind of like walking you
Yeah.
through, like step one,
Yeah.
step two?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she came in and she kind of moved it around to try to see if the balloon would, based on where its location was, like, is it gonna, kind of start putting that pressure on it, right? And very shortly after that, I was in excruciating pain, labor pain, like it felt like I was having contractions. So I asked for pain medication. They gave me their mixture of
Cocktail.
yeah, it's nothing. I forget what the names of the medication were, but Stadol and something else. And I basically knocked out for the rest of the day. I slept and spent pretty much the whole day like out. Around fourth
So,
day.
question for you: when they gave you this cocktail, it was in the form of a pill, or was it like an
Um,
injection?
I'll put it in there.
yeah, I was gonna say an IV. I mean, it's been so long that I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was an IV. Um,
Now, at
Okay.
this point, had they
And then
done
like, were you kind of
Pitocin?
like
no,
in the bed, kind of like in a labor like position, or like how did you sleep? Like, did you
No,
sleep like
I just
normal, or
was,
were you like?
yeah, I was just laying there like normal, and I got very lightheaded, woozy, felt like I was gonna pass out, and that's when I kind of just like I took a nap for a while. And I woke up around like 4:30 that afternoon, and they came in, and I had gone to the bathroom, and they said 24 hours for the Foley catheter, or if it falls out on its own before that, then that's great. Otherwise, 24-hour window, and they come and take it out. So at 4:30 that afternoon, I was going to the bathroom, and it had ended up falling out on its own. So I called them in, and I had at that point, like, okay, we're moving you to the labor and delivery room, basically, is what they were doing. So they were getting me ready, thinking you're going into labor. We're gonna prep you for, what could come next.
And you hadn't dilated. You dilated only to a certain.
Yes,
right?
yes. So I think I had only dilated like 4 centimeters at
What's
that point.
dilated?
What's
What
that?
does dilated mean?
It means like how wide your cervix is. So you have to be at least 10 centimeters dilated to be able to give birth naturally through vaginal delivery. And so I was only 4 centimeters dilated. My water
Is
had
there
not
a way
broken.
for men or anybody, like, is there a way like your partner could check? Like, because I've always seen in the movies, like, they was like, well, how dilated is she? It's like the guy's always like, oh.
I mean, maybe, but that's not something we would
Okay.
have like. We were in the
Okay.
hospital at that point, so there was no need for Chris to do it, right? Like,
It's not
the
like you're in the
nurses and
back of the
doctors were
taxi.
there. They were doing it. So I'm sure they could, somebody could tell you how to figure that out, but we did not go through that. So I basically got ready. I got into this next room, and I was in the special care unit of the maternity ward because I was high risk, and I was put into that room, and they basically kind of started putting me into all these different positions and giving me I had the peanut pillow like in between my legs, had me on all fours, all different positions, trying to get me to, kind of
Okay.
push things along.
And the
Uh,
Foley catheter is the most natural way to try to induce labor, if that's relevant.
Yeah.
Like, so there's also they start to give you pitocin and things like
Mhm.
that. It's like enforcing labor on your
Yeah.
body, right? It's like
Yeah.
activating those hormones to induce your body into labor. But the Foley catheter is like the most natural way to start that process to see if your body will naturally kind of go
Okay.
into.
Right. So, yeah, and I eventually I was put on Pitocin that night, I believe.
And what is
But
Pitocin?
it just kind of pushes things along more, right? Like it's really
It's
not
a hormone that kind of activates labor.
I don't even remember. It literally has been so long, and I've pushed a lot of this out of my mind because
synthetic medication derived from oxytocin,
yeah,
a hormone made and stored in the brain.
So they put a lot of women on it when they start going into labor to kind of, but things can happen with it that they have to take you off of it. Like you can only be on it for so long, and if it's not doing its job, then they take you off of it. So
a lot of people like don't want to be on it because it's almost like more intense labor contractions and things like that. So like a lot of people that want to opt for like the natural childbirth don't want Pitocin. Like they don't want some synthetic hormone that's gonna give them really severe cramping and contractions and things like that. So a lot of people try to avoid it if they can.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
So that night at like 1 a.m., so it was Tuesday morning, technically, the doctor came in, and because my water had not broken yet, she broke it for me. Started to move things along. I started having contractions. I was in a lot of pain. I finally, at like 3 a.m., I asked for an epidural. They made me wait almost another hour before they came to do it. That was tough too, because when you have an epidural, they don't allow your spouse to be near you.
Really?
Yes. So Chris had to sit like behind the nurse, basically away from me, and the nurse had to hold my hands while they were trying to do it, and they had to stick me like 3 times because they
Did
couldn't
they
get it in the right
explain
spot.
why you can't like?
I think because you're more, well, I mean, the poor nurse probably almost had her wrists broken because I was holding them so tight, but you probably feel like more comfortable with your spouse that you almost want to relax because they're with you, right? This person you don't know is standing in front of you and they're your comfort in that moment. So you kind of tend to probably tense up more and you're going to sit straighter than if you had your spouse or significant other holding your hand. You're going to be like, okay, you're my safe space. Like I can relax now.
To that point too, like if you have a spouse like kind of in that space with you and like you have a needle being driven into your back and like you're in pain, like you're their significant other, like you don't, I guess you might not know how that spouse is going to react as well. So like,
yeah, absolutely. And God forbid they like flinch or they let go and they want to like comfort you, you know, like that's one thing, you're not allowed to move. You have to sit as straight as possible. So yeah, so that was once I got the epidural, it was great. Like I spent the next day really just feeling great, didn't know what was going on, like was having.
And we're back.
Sorry.
You guys good?
Yeah. We just took a quick nap, took a brief intermission, but we're back.
You're gonna spend a lot of time editing this.
Honestly, could you figure in editing into your budget? Because anyway.
Yeah, I'm dude. I'm snowed in all week. First of all, my producers are trash. Okay, they gave me the wrong cards, thinking I'm interviewing the Amish people. But no, I have the whole weekend to do some editing, so I'm good.
All right.
Okay, great.
Well, you're going to be working on just ours all weekend.
Hope you enjoy the podcast planned.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so.
All right, let's take it from. So one thing I want to ask though. So you're getting this epidural, and you said that they had to apply it 3 times.
Yes. So yeah. So
is there a reason why they have to do this 3 times? And like, because here's the thing, to my understanding of based off what you're explaining, this is in the spine, right? So it's like you can't just be playing around back there. Like, did they give you any like, hey, like any warnings? Is there like a, hey, like we may like seriously injure you type of conversation? Like, how does that go?
Well, yeah, but what they do is when they inject the needle into your spine, they ask you, can you feel like, do you feel anything on your left side, right side? Yeah, like, so you have to kind of tell them. And if they have it in a spot that you can feel it somewhere, they have to then try it in a different area. So it's not that like they screwed it up and they put it in the wrong spot and had to, oops, we got to do that. Like, It's just depending. Like, it's just wherever they insert it or inject that needle into your body, how is your body reacting to it, right? Like, where are you feeling the I don't want to say pain because that's not what it is, but the sensation, right? So
Okay.
they had to, the third time they finally were able to like get my body to where, okay, I don't feel anything weird that I'm not supposed to feel. So
Right.
so I had that, and then like I was a star patient with it. They were shocked at how like mobile I was, and I didn't get out of bed, but I was able to like move my whole body and flip over and do all of the like different positions to, you know, kind of induce labor even more. Whereas most people who can't feel their legs don't know what's going on. So, but I spent that whole Tuesday in labor and was still not progressing at all in terms of dilation. So by 3 o'clock that day, they had taken me off the Pitocin because Christopher's heart rate was dropping. It kept dropping. They took me off of it for like 30 minutes and put me back on.
So, question for you: during this, see, so you're there for like 3 days. So, like, it sounds like, if I'm correct, right, you're counting about 3 days of just stuff happening. During this time, like, are you eating like or are you just pretty much in the bed? Like, are you allowed to eat? Like, was Chris able to bring you food, or was there, like, are you able to drink just waters only? Like, what was the food situation like?
Once once I moved to this second room after the Foley catheter came out and I started having like the contractions and going into labor, technically, that's when they don't allow you to eat anymore. So you can only have clear liquids or broth. So I could have like Jello, I could have chicken broth. I was not allowed to eat anymore. Before that, I could eat anything and everything. So we were there with, you know, really no, it was still kind of COVID sort of. So you still had to wear masks in the hospital. Visitors were like one a day. So we didn't have anybody coming to the hospital to see us. So Chris was the one going out and getting food. And, you know, there were food trucks, or he'd like go off the hospital property and find something to eat. So, or we would just order from the cafeteria basically and have food delivered to our room. So up until that point, I could eat anything. But then as soon as I went into labor, it was, you know, all bets are off. Just having Jello and broth for hours. So by Tuesday afternoon, when I still had not dilated past 5 centimeters, they kind of made the decision, like, at this point, you've been in labor for 18 hours. Nothing's happening. Next step is a C-section. So I kind of was like, okay, fine. Like, just get this baby out of me is kind of how I was, like, that was my mindset at that point.
Because that's a lot on somebody to be in bed for 72 hours and forcing your body into something that it's not necessarily ready for.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're just like, you know, you're can't do anything. You just like, you're in pain. You're not able to move a lot. Like, nothing's really happening. So I thought I was fine and prepared for it. And they kind of just whisked me off to the OR and left Chris in the dust and said, like, pack your stuff. We're moving you to another
Get
room.
all this stuff together.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah. Put this suit on that doesn't fit you and and get to the OR. So he had no idea. Like, he didn't know what was going on really. Like, they took me away.
Did they communicate to him? Did they communicate, or was it like a situation where it's like, hey, we don't have time to like break it down for you, buddy. Just grab your stuff and come on.
No, it wasn't dire by any means. Like, there was no emergency to it, but it just like, we're doing this and this is what time it's happening. And so they kind of like told him, like, you need to get your stuff together and you're going to be moving to another room after this. And so he was just like, okay, I'm
Oh,
like, okay, fine. I got to get all this stuff. And so he kind of got left behind and like didn't know where he was supposed to go or anything. But he ended up like, eventually they got him to the OR. He was in the OR with me. I got really sick because of the anesthesia. And I was very, very anxious because I was having a major surgery. And I remember like shaking because I I had such horrible anxiety that my whole body was trembling. And they were like, you just need more blankets. You're just cold. It's really cold in here. And I was like, I'm not actually not. I'm sweating. Like, I'm actually profusely sweating. Please stop piling more blankets on. Okay. I don't need any more blankets. I threw up like 3 times before the surgery because I had all the anesthesia and all the anxiety and everything. And Christopher was born, and it was a very different experience in the sense that you, as a woman, you like dream about the time you give birth for the first time, and you think about how like you're going to get to see your baby as soon as they are born and put on your body. And I didn't get that. He was whisked off to the little machine over, and like I couldn't even really see him, so I didn't get that experience
Did you
of
ask
like,
to see him before they took him away, or did you demand, or did you say anything, or were you like in a space where you
no,
couldn't even really speak?
I couldn't. I was laying with my arms out by my side. Like there was no, they took him and they just brought him over because they have to weigh him and clean him and get his, like, all his stats and everything and make sure that he's breathing okay and all of that. So Chris got to go over there and see him and take his picture. And then they brought him over to me. But you don't get that same experience
Okay.
with having a C-section versus having a vaginal delivery where, the baby comes out, and they're still probably doing those same things, but it just felt very different for me to not be able to even see him at all when he was first born. He was over, I couldn't even like see him from where I was laying. And then they brought me down to a recovery room, and they let me have skin to skin and tried to get me to have him latch, and at that point you're just kind of, you don't really know what's going on.
Exhausted.
Yeah. So
You're just like you're real done.
they put that really like, it looks like a pool float, and it's a heater, and you're also dying of heat exhaustion. And I just don't want to be hot anymore, and I want this thing off of me. But it's like, it's a
You're not a
whirlwind.
baked
Like,
potato
you
where they're like
don't.
keeping you warm.
Yeah. And he was born so late in the night. Well, it wasn't really that late. It was 6:51. But by the time we got to a room, like our own actual private room, the cafeteria was closed. I remember when my mom had me and my sisters, they gave you like a steak dinner with champagne at the hospital the like day after, the night you gave birth, whatever it was. We got jail sandwiches. They were 2 pieces of bread with a slap of turkey. One had cheese, one didn't. One got an apple, one didn't. Like, no mayonnaise packets. It was the worst meal I just had a baby. I don't want this bread and turkey meat that's
Here,
slimy. It was so bad, but it was all we could get. Oscar Mayer bologna. I don't think it was Oscar Mayer. It was like Lunchables.
can we take a step back for a second? Because I want to talk about like this real like important moment, right? Which I've seen videos, and I understand the importance of it. But like, is there a reason why these doctors can't just like give you that? At least like, listen, we know the baby's breathing. We can hear the baby's breathing. Like, why do we have to rush and get these stats? Like, the baby's not gonna gain 10. We gotta get it quick before the baby gets 10 pounds. Like, we don't have to like rush. Like, he's here. Like,
They
just
have
give
to
him a
do that.
moment.
I think it depends. So, like, if you're getting a C-section, the majority of the time, unless you've elected to have a C-section, like, it's probably because there's some kind of imminent danger to the mother or the child, right? So, like, if his heart rate was dropping when you were doing the Pitocin, they like want to make sure that like they get the baby out of you and the baby's okay and all of that. So immediately after you've been removed, it's actually ripped from your mother's womb, like, they want to make sure the baby's okay. So, like, if you're coming out, the other piece of that is that when you're born by a C-section, babies aren't getting the fluid expelled out of their lungs, that when you're coming through the birth canal, it kind of pushes that out, is my understanding.
Oh,
So there's a lot of babies with C-section that they worry about their breathing. So I think for a C-section, that's probably the primary reason why they just kind of whisk them away and make sure that they get them suctioned out and they weigh them and do all the things they need to do and clean them off and make sure they're breathing. So,
well, and that APGAR test, like, that's huge too. Like, that's part of why they do all of this right away, because every second counts in situations like that, especially if they have fluid in their lungs. And they might be breathing that second. They might be crying. They might not be crying. And they need to be able to make sure that everything's working as it should. So, I mean, that's one thing I not that I can say I regret it, because I didn't really have much of a choice in that at that point. Like, I didn't choose to have the C-section. I had been in labor for days, like, basically. So, not being able to like see him as soon as he was born, and have to like wait till not even be able to see him from behind me. Like, I could barely see what was going on over there. But as soon as he was wrapped up in a blanket, they brought him over, and he was right by my head. But I couldn't hold him in that moment either. Like, they're just by your head. It's just like burrito. Yeah. You're like, okay, great. Like, I can't hold this thing that I just carried for 9 months and birthed, and now they're just taking it away in a burrito. Your arms are like Jesus on the cross. Like, they're stretched out on either side of you. You're afraid to move, and you're cut open, right? So you don't know what to do and what's the right thing to do. And 7 layers of skin just split open. So, it's rough. And then you have the recovery too. And, if you're not somebody who can take things slow and isn't a slow moving person in the sense that like they know how to rest and relax and just let somebody take care of them. I'm not. It's really hard. You want to just be able to start doing things as soon as you get home.
People are going to struggle during this time.
Yeah. I want to do the laundry. I want to clean the dishes. I want to clean the house.
Yeah, that's you're bringing us to a really good transition. A few more questions about the hospital. So how long were you in the hospital after you delivered Christopher?
So he was born on Tuesday night. I finally got to go home on Friday morning. So another 2 days.
Okay, so they kind of kept you in
3 days. Yeah.
For observations and stuff like that. And then who was all like the people like? So I know about a doula, but like who was all with you for the majority of the time? Like, were you with like a doula, midwife? Like, were you with the doctor the whole time? Like, who was all the
So I had nurses coming in to check on me most of the time. They would come and do their rounds, check my vitals. The doctor only came in, throughout that time. I probably saw a doctor a handful of times, maybe five, 6 times. It just depended on what was going on in that moment. So as I got closer to the point where the Pitocin wasn't working, his heart rate was dropping, they're taking me off, the doctor was in constantly during that time. And she was on her way out as her rotation was ending. So a new doctor was coming in. So I saw that doctor basically like 5 o'clock, and she's like, we're doing your C-section at 6 o'clock. Like, so that's another thing, is that like you have now gone to this doctor for 9 months, right? And you've may or may not have created some sort of a bond with them or comfortability level. And then in this situation, like, and in many situations, right, it's not always your doctor that's delivering, right? It's not always your doctor so now you're in a situation where like, okay, you have to go in for the C-section, and like whoever's on is on, and that's who's cutting you open that day. So, well, yeah. And my particular situation was that I was at a different practice entirely when I got pregnant. And I called the office that I now go to, that practice, I called them and said, I took a pregnancy test. I'm pregnant. Like, I want to be seen, but I'm not a patient there. They would not allow me to be seen until I had gone to my current doctor and gotten a gestational age from them. So I had to wait until I had that confirmation from my current doctor before I could switch. So I went into this new practice not having a primary OBGYN, and I just saw all of them, and basically kind of like once they were at the hospital, like I only saw 4 of the doctors out of the practice, but one of them did the circumcision for Christopher. Like, that was when I saw her. One was a doctor I never even met during my time being pregnant. I only had met her at the hospital. And then I had 2 other doctors that were there. So one of them was the one that did my C-section. So I didn't have like my doctor. I didn't have a doctor from that practice at that point. I just had seen all of them and been on the rotation with them throughout my 9 months. So it was like I didn't have any sort of like real relationship with any of them at that point. But now, like, I still go there. I have a doctor that I've picked out of those that I really liked, and I now see her as my normal, primary doctor. So, I like you think you meet everybody, and then suddenly now a doctor you've never met before is kind of taking over your care for the majority of the time that you're in the hospital, and you don't have a relationship at all with them because you've never met them. So that was my only thing, was that I didn't know that she wasn't the one that did my surgery. So, but now you've got a doctor you've never seen before coming in, and you're like, oh, okay, well, hi, nice to meet you. So
I think that's one thing that I would recommend, just as an aside, like before going into the hospital, you never know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like you don't know what kind of health complications you're going to have, what kind of health complications your baby's going to have. I think that would be one of my recommendations, is to have a team of doctors that you trust going into the hospital. So like I came out with a slew of issues, right? So like I didn't have a cardiologist. We had a family cardiologist that like my family had used previously, but like I didn't know anything about cardiology. I never thought I would have to until I was in my 60s or 70s. And but having a pediatrician that you can trust, having a primary care doctor, just to be able to, like, if the doctors need to call out and say, hey, we need medical history on this person, or we need your advice because this is what this person's going through. Like I went in with no primary care. It's just my OBGYN, because my doctor had retired, but we had no doctors, and I wish that I had had that going in, because I think I would have had a much more comfortable experience with doctors around me that I trusted, versus just a bunch of doctors that were at the hospital that were just trying to piecemeal stuff together to.
Gotcha. So in summary, if you are potentially going to have either a planned C-section, or you think there's a chance you're going to have a C-section, something you should do is really think about scheduling or planning out a team of doctors that are going to be there for you during and post care. So that way, if something does go wrong, everything is already squared away, and it kind of reduces any potential risk or open questions and things like that. You can get the immediate care that you need if something goes bad, right? Basically, it's fair to say that you should, if you know that you are going to potentially get a C-section, or you're planning to get a C-section, you should go ahead and proactively start lining up your doctors, making sure that you have a good rotation, because like you guys were saying, or Kristen, you said you saw 5 or 6 doctors, and they were kind of working in a rotation, and these doctors are people who you never really had a good relationship with, or not like in a negative way, but like you just didn't establish that connection.
Don't switch doctors when you get pregnant.
And it's not always just necessarily for a C-section too. I think that just in general, it's just good preparation. Just the same way they tell you, like, you need to pick a pediatrician to when you leave the hospital and all those things. Like, do your research, have those people ready to go, and have those phone numbers on deck, because you don't know what you're going to walk into. You don't know if your labor is going to be completely seamless and flawless and everything's going to be fine and mom and baby are healthy, or if it's going to take a turn and you're going to need to call in a team of doctors to support you through it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, Kristen, so thank you for sharing your story. So Krista, you want to share your story, and then we'll talk about how dads are going to be part of this journey and what things we can do to champion it. So when your mom first met your dad, yeah, let's start from the beginning. So like, as far as your pregnancy goes, you know, you know, take us through like your journey. Like, how did you get pregnant? Did you go to the lake? Like, what happened?
We got married in 2022. Yep, I got married in 2022. Sorry, John. We got married in 2022, so we immediately started trying. We knew that we wanted to have kids. We were a little bit older in life. We met each other a little bit older in life.
You didn't let the ink on the marriage certificate dry? You're just like, let's go.
We were like, let's do this. So we started trying immediately. I knew going into it that I may have some issues. I had some issues with my cycles previously and throughout my life. And I had been on birth control, progesterone birth control, I should note, for the entirety of me and John's relationship. So I was on birth control the entire time. I'd come off birth control, but was having problems before that.
And what is progesterone?
So progesterone, they call it the mini pill. So Most birth controls are estrogen based. I should probably preface this by saying that I have high blood pressure. It's not super high, but I've been treated for high blood pressure for the majority of my 20s into my 30s. And going into pregnancy, I was almost coming off all of my blood pressure meds. Everything was looking good for me. And then we decided we were going to get pregnant. They switched my blood pressure meds to something that would be safe for the baby in the event that I did get pregnant. But anyway, so we immediately started trying to have a baby. We knew going into it that we might be up against some challenges. We noticed after, they usually say to give it a year. We started talking to our doctors and my gynecologists and stuff, and they said, give it a year. If you're still having trouble, we'll refer you to a fertility specialist. So given I had already had issues with my cycles, I'd gone to my annual physical that year or whatever. I think it was we started trying in December. I think by March, I went for my annual and was like, hey, we've been trying to get pregnant. We haven't had any success yet. Given my history, they ended up saying to me, we're going to refer you to a fertility specialist. So I went to the fertility specialist. That was in and of itself an experience. The first question the doctor said to me was, I can help you regulate your cycles or I can get you pregnant. 2020 being hindsight now, 2020 is hindsight or whatever that thing is. I wish I had said to them, let's regulate my cycles and get me pregnant that way. Going into fertility throws your body into a place where it's not used to being, because they're just giving you hormones to help stimulate things and help things be in the right timing and the right space and all things to go right with your body so that you can conceive a baby. But it's not taking into account your biological, your biological clock, your biological, just natural pattern of things. So we were just anxious to get pregnant. We didn't want to waste any more time. We, like I said, met later in life. We wanted to make sure that we were still weren't with a walker chasing after a toddler. We were getting old. I said, no, I want to get pregnant. We're committed to getting pregnant.
Got it. So basically, you were just really eager. That was the only reason why you chose to go the route of hey, let's get pregnant before regulating the periods. You were like, okay, I kind of want to let's crack the egg right now by weight,
right,
type of thing.
In my mind, I was I didn't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So I didn't know that many of my issues that I was having were probably hormonal, and they probably just needed to regulate my hormones to, in turn, allow me to get pregnant. So what it essentially does is...
You're bringing up some really good points. Sorry, I may want to intervene with some questions because you're bringing up some really good points. So many couples struggle with fertility, right? It's a big thing. Some companies are actually supporting it financially, but a lot of people are struggling with fertility. And it sounded like one thing about fertility, it sounds like, is you have to do the research behind it, right? Because you said there's a couple of things where I didn't know, but had I known differently, I probably would have decided differently, right?
Yep.
So that's another thing where when dads are or the partner is working through the fertility plan, right? Because I think dads are part of the conversation for sure, especially if maybe they have an insurance that covers it, right? As a person who's never done fertility, I think about fertility as a simple wham bam thank you ma'am, right? They really it has a perception of a real simplified, you just go in there, squirt it in a cup, and then boom, you're good to go. 9 months later, baby's here.
It's not that. It is not that.
It sounds like there's a lot more that goes into it, and you shouldn't just be okay, cool, let's just go see the doctor, and then wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
It's a commitment. It is a commitment, and when I tell you, it's it disrupts your life. And we didn't even have... There are many families that go for years. I've talked to families that have gone for 9-10 years trying to conceive, doing fertility treatments. I did it for a year and a half, I think. And, we were lucky enough to get pregnant and conceive, and that was great. But there are people that go through this for years and years and years. I can't imagine the stress. It does put a lot of stress on your body as a woman. It puts stress on your relationship, obviously, as a couple, because your hormones are up and down. And if you don't have that supportive relationship or that supportive partner, it can be rough, right? So I think that if I could go back, I probably would have chosen to have them regulate my cycles and not go the aggressive hormone route right away. Because I do think truly it was just a matter of regulating my hormones, and then we ended up getting pregnant. So I'll try to make this the abridged version. But so we went through a couple trials of different medications to figure out kind of what was going on with me. And I just wasn't ovulating consistently. So it wasn't that I wasn't ovulating. It was just that I wasn't ovulating consistency. So maybe I would ovulate 1 month, maybe I wouldn't ovulate for 2 months after that. Maybe I would ovulate again. So it was kind of random. And that's because my cycles were kind of irregular, right? So my body was used to this irregularity. So they give you all these different hormones to kind of help stimulate the egg growth and all of that. And then so we ended up doing, you can do timed intercourse. So we chose to do timed intercourse. That was I wanted to go the most natural route. I wanted to try and do it as natural as we could, and then obviously intervene with medications as we needed to. So we did timed intercourse, I think, for like 3 rounds. So basically you just plan when you're ovulating to.
And then, Chris, a question for you. When you say timed, is it like 3:30 timed, or is it like, hey, we just have to pick this day and plan it?
So they do blood tests on you. So you're constantly going for blood work and they're monitoring what your hormones are. So your hormones, there's so much that goes into pregnancy and conceiving a child that you don't realize behind the scenes when you're just like, able to conceive naturally and you don't think about it. So I am thankful for that part of my journey, whereas I got to see it from literally like the ground up, which was kind of cool. But your hormones all have to be in a very specific place. Like everything has to be perfect and the stars have to align and everything else has to be perfect for you to conceive a child. So your uterine lining has to be a certain thickness. The egg has to release at a certain time. The sperm has to meet it in the fallopian tubes, and then it has to go down into your uterus, and then it has to implant. Like there's so many pieces of it that have to go right. So timed intercourse is where basically they're monitoring your hormones. They're able to tell if you're ready to ovulate based on your hormones. They kind of judge, okay, you're going to ovulate on this day. That means you have to have intercourse this day. As we got further into it and medications were involved, I had to like give myself a shot at a certain time of day, like in the morning. And then we would plan to have intercourse at night to try to conceive or whatever. So luckily, I didn't have to do too many crazy medications. I just had to do a couple rounds of medications. Anyway, it took us a year or so of kind of trial and error, a lot of tears, a lot of, negative pregnancy tests, a lot of, what are we doing wrong? What's wrong with my body? I think that's a big piece of fertility as a woman is all you want to do is have a child, right? And this may not be for every woman, but like, I think as a woman, many of us are like, we want to have babies. We want to have a family. We want to have the white picket fence. And when your body doesn't want to cooperate, or you can't give a child to your husband who wants a child, or you've wanted nothing more than to be called a mom your whole life, I think when you're unable to make that happen, it's really taxing on your emotions. So it was a really, really hard year and a half. And it finally got to the point where all the stars aligned, everything started to work out. My hormones were regulating. Actually, so we ended up doing the timed intercourse didn't work. So they moved to an IUI. So an IUI is an intrauterine insemination. So essentially, they time kind of when you're going to ovulate. You do what's called a trigger shot after you've done your hormones for the month or whatever to prep your ovaries and your uterus and all that. You do the trigger shot that releases your egg. It forces you to ovulate at a certain time. John goes and does his thing. They collect his specimen in a cup, and then they clean the sperm. They make sure that they pick out all the best swimmers and all the strongest swimmers. We were really lucky. That's another piece of it.
Get a bath.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Some people, so that's another piece of fertility is that your spouse or your partner has to be tested. So they test you to see kind of what your sperm count is, the mobility, like all of those things. So we were very lucky. John was very proud of his sperm count and his mobility and all of that. He was ready to go. Everything was good on his side. So 3 IUIs total. So on our 3rd IUI, we got pregnant. And basically, like I said, it's just where you time ovulation with injecting the sperm into you. And we also happened to celebrate our anniversary of our first date at the same time. So we don't really know if it was the IUI or if it was just us kind of consummating our first date. But I'd like to think at that point my hormones were
Isn't that beautiful though?
Right. So I mean, I don't even want to know, right? Like it could have just been fate. It could have just been what was supposed to happen. But I do think that my hormones were in the right place at the right time, and we were getting closer this whole time to conceiving. And like the doctors keep telling you, like, okay, usually by the 3rd time you'll get pregnant. If you don't, then we were at the point where we were going to start considering IVF, which is where they take the egg, they take the sperm. You go through a lot more hormones as a woman with that. Like they basically give you a lot of hormones to grow all of your eggs and grow them in bulk, basically. Like, and so that they can go in and extract them. So you'd have to go under anesthesia, you have to extract the eggs. Then they take the sperm, they create an embryo, they make sure that embryo is viable. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes, they pull out a lot of eggs and a lot of sperm and they make a bunch of embryos and they're all viable, and some people freeze them. There's just lots of things that you can get into with fertility. But we didn't have to go as far as IVF. We got pregnant on our third IUI. That month I kind of was at my wit's end. I remember being like really kind of upset over all of us trying and all of this, work that we were putting in and all the damage it was kind of doing to my body and how I was feeling. And I was just feeling really defeated. I had bought a at-home fertility monitor. I spent an obscene amount of money on some intense fertility monitors. So it measures all your hormones at home. And by this time, a year and a half in, I knew what I was looking for as far as hormones and what needed to align to make a baby. So just as you're getting ready to, let me think about it for a second. When your body has ovulated, your hormones peak and then they drop. And that's where you get your period. If you've not fertilized an egg, that's your hormones drop out, you get your period, that's it. So my hormones had dropped. Well, there's an opportunity for it to go back up after it's implanted. So I had what they think is late implantation. So I had tested my hormones. It was like March 4th, I think. And I was supposed to go to the doctor the next day. And I called them and I said, I tested my hormones at home. I'm not pregnant. Let's cancel my appointment. We'll just schedule another round of IUI, basically. So the next night, I went in the bathroom. We were getting ready for bed. And I had one pregnancy test left. And I was like, I'm just going to see. I'm just going to try. And I took the pregnancy test in the bathroom. John didn't know I was doing it. And I peed on the stick and I sat in the bathroom and I wasn't even paying attention to it. I was like, whatever, on my phone. I don't know what I was doing. And I looked down and I saw yes. And I saw the plus sign and I went and I just kind of like bugged out for a second. And I was like, this isn't right. This can't be right. This is not right.
How surreal did that feel? That's crazy, right?
It was wild. I'll never forget how I felt in that moment. And I always had this big plan in my head of like how I was going to tell John when we were pregnant. And I bought this box and I got the onesie made and I got all this stuff and I put it together and it just went out the window in that moment. So it's 10:30 at night and I screamed his name and he goes, I thought you was a spider. Like I thought like I was coming to kill a bug. And I opened the door and I like shoved the test in his face and I was like, oh my God. And I go, yeah. I go, this can't be right. I don't know if this is right. We drove to Walmart at 10:30 at night. We live very close to a super Walmart. So we drove to Walmart at 10:30.
So 24 hours.
Yep. And
how was that drive?
Were you guys we were excited. It was exciting. So I went to Walmart. I bought, I think, probably 8 pregnancy tests and peed on all of them. And they all said yes. And they were like the digital. They were like legit. Yeah.
$100 on a pregnancy test.
Legit. So we were like obviously ecstatic. And so I called the doctor the next.
I would have been like, what are you having, a litter? Yeah, you're just a litter.
I can't imagine what people thought of me, right? You always think like as a woman, like when you go to buy pregnancy tests at the store, you're like carrying all these pregnancy tests. You're like, okay, thank you. Can you just check me out? But yeah, so I mean, we were obviously over the moon. And the next day I called the doctor and I said, remember that appointment that I canceled? I said, I'm actually on my way there now because they have to test your blood levels. When you go through fertility, you are at the doctor every single morning to test your blood levels. So I was, at this point, we had moved. Nobody knew we were going through fertility except for like a couple people. We had moved from Monroe to Naugatuck. We bought our house. So my doctor was in Monroe. So I was driving back and forth from Naugatuck to Monroe to get my blood work done all the time, crying most of the way back and forth because I, was just hoping that maybe something would happen. But anyway, so I went into the doctor, got my blood work done that day. And they have to confirm levels. So once you're pregnant and the baby is implanted, your levels start to kind of double. So I had gone to the doctor, they took my blood work. I went home that day and I was working and I was like trying to focus, right? So I'm a day pregnant, right? So I'm trying to figure out like, okay, how do I get through the day without blurting this out to somebody? So the doctor called me and was like, yeah, you're pregnant. She's like, your levels are multiplying. Like you're pregnant. And I was like, okay, great. So now it was like, okay, well, do we wait to tell people, being older and going into this, we knew what the risks were. We knew that, I was a little older. We knew I had high blood pressure. We knew that, just being older in general, like there's more risks to everything. So I was very nervous. I didn't want to tell anybody for a really long time. You don't want to ruin something, right? You don't want to try to jinx something that's going well for you. So we actually had Christopher's first birthday party that weekend, and Kristen was getting married.
Yeah.
And she had asked me at Christopher's first birthday party to be her maid of honor at her wedding. And meanwhile, I knew I was going to be pregnant. I knew I couldn't tell her yet. So I was like, yeah, of course I'll be your maid of honor. Like, obviously. So me and John were sitting at this birthday party, like kind of like keeping it in, and like was sitting next to my mother, my aunt, like everybody that we loved was there. Like, how do we not tell these people? So I ended up calling her on Monday or
I
something.
see that you weren't drinking, by the way. I saw that you weren't drinking, and I was just like,
I tried not to, I didn't
that.
want to drink. I didn't want to drink through much of my fertility. Like there was weeks, right, where I would like get my period and I'd be like, all right, we're going out tonight. Let's go. I need to go let off some steam or whatever. So I tried not to drink a lot of the time and just kind of kept it low key. But yes, I was not drinking at the birthday party, at the open bar birthday party. So yeah, I mean, Kristen came to my house that Monday to drop off extra food from the birthday party and was like, here, do you want this? I was like, yeah, but I have something to tell you. Like, we just found out we're pregnant, and I don't know how this is gonna work for your wedding. Like, I don't know. I think I was supposed to deliver. I was due the week before her wedding.
2 days before my wedding, yeah.
So it was just, the dates were just like really, really close. So anyway, flash forward, I had pretty much a wonderful pregnancy. I had a great doctor that I loved, that I felt really comfortable with, that I saw every time I went to the practice. It wasn't until later in the pregnancy, like kind of after 20 weeks, I would say, was I starting to rotate through doctors, just in the event that like my doctor couldn't deliver. And there was only a few doctors, but they happened to be merging with another practice or gaining more doctors at the time. Like their practice was growing, which I was aware of and was, kind of nervous, but didn't really think about it. But most of my pregnancy was fine. I was a little nauseous at night. But for the majority of it, I felt pretty good. I didn't really have the morning sickness. I never threw up. I had some taste aversions to like sausage. I still can't look at sausage. Other than that, like I felt pretty normal. Like, and then obviously my belly was growing and I was growing a baby, and I could feel him kick and start to do things. That was cool. And then we hit, let's say 20 weeks. We went to the anatomy scan. Everything was great. Everything was normal. He was happy. He was healthy. He was moving around. He was a little bigger. His head was a little bigger, but me and John have big domes, so we weren't really concerned about that. So I would say probably around, and this is important to note, I would say between 24 to 34 weeks, I started to notice random things. And they weren't severe symptoms. Everybody has swelling in pregnancy. My feet were a little swollen. It wasn't that severe, honestly. I had some headaches sometimes. That wasn't that severe. I had a couple instances where I think it was right rib pain, which is important. But it wasn't painful. It was just kind of like, oh, like the baby's foot might be in my rib or something like that. And then we got to my baby shower, which was in the end of September. We had my baby shower. I felt pretty good. I just was feeling big at that point. I was at 34 weeks. That Tuesday, so every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, I was going for a checkup with the doctor. So when you have high blood pressure, you're at higher risk for something called preeclampsia, which is a blood pressure disease, if you will. But there's lots of complications that can come with it. And it can be deadly for the baby. It can be deadly for you. And it's very crucial to watch women when they have high blood pressure. I mean, just in general, after 24 weeks, I think it is, they start to watch you a little more closely.
How do you know if you have preeclampsia?
So I'm getting to that. So preeclampsia does not necessarily have symptoms. It can be very undetectable. So what happened was I went to the doctor. My blood pressure was completely, so I have high blood pressure naturally. I was on a low dose of something called labetalol. It's a blood pressure med. Through my whole pregnancy, my blood pressure was 120 over 70, 120 over 80. Every time I went to the doctor throughout my pregnancy, it was fine. And then at 34 weeks, I went to the doctor and it was 140 over 90. Now, my whole life, my blood pressure's always run around 130 over 80. So that's just my typical high blood pressure. It's not severe high blood pressure. So when it hits 140 over 90, that's when the red flags start to go up and say, okay, like something's happening in her body. And it could be circumstantial. So what they do is they tell you like, let's go send you for labs. So ways to diagnose preeclampsia is that it affects your major organs. So it can affect your kidneys, it can affect your liver. So they're looking in those labs to see if your enzymes are off, if they're higher than normal, if something is just off in those labs. They also check your urine for protein. So I never actually got a confirmation whether I had protein in my urine or not, but my labs came back that day. So I went to the doctor. They sent me for labs. My blood pressure was 140 over 90. I felt fine. This whole time I felt fine. I called John. I was like, my blood pressure's up a little bit. They sent me for labs. I'm probably fine. I'm coming home. So I went home and was working, finished my day of work. And at 4:00, I was on a call and the doctor was calling me incessantly, like 6, 7, 8, 9 times was calling me. And it was a doctor that was another doctor in the practice that I don't normally see because my doctor was not the doctor I saw that day. And they called me and he left me a voicemail to call him back immediately. So I called him back and I was like, hi, like, what's going on? And I can hear in his voice, he was nervous. And he said to me, hi, Christa, we got your labs back, with your blood pressure being where it is right now. We also got your labs back and they said that your liver enzymes are highly elevated. So we are recommending that you go to the emergency room immediately. So of course, as a mom, you're 34 weeks, you're not 34 weeks, your baby is
Not full term yet.
It's not full term yet, but it's past the point where it's like they worry significantly about lungs and kind of major organs and things like that. So there's probably a better way to put that, but that's the best way I know how to put it right now. So it's a good place to be. So I was 34 weeks and a day. So of course I start panicking. I'm like, we just had my baby shower 3 days ago. Like the crib isn't built, the bassinet's not built, the clothes aren't washed, like nothing is ready for us. So I text John, who's still working, and I'm like, they want me to go to the, like, how do you do that? Like, we need to go now. Like, how do I pull him away from work, but not panic him? So I text him, like, the doctor just called. We have to go to the emergency room. They want me to deliver. So I said to the doctor on the phone, I said, what am I preparing for here? Like, what do I need to be prepared for? He's like, I would be prepared to be at the hospital for, a few days where they're probably going to want to induce you or, deliver. So of course I call my mom, I call his mom, I'm crying, I'm nervous. So this whole time I had this picture perfect pregnancy and all of a sudden we're at 34 weeks and now the world is like falling down around me. And I'm like, oh my God, like what's going to happen? I don't know anything about preeclampsia. I wasn't even worried about that. Like everything you hear about in pregnancy is gestational diabetes and all that. So I wasn't really focused on preeclampsia. So I went, I'll be honest, I took my time going there because I was like, if I'm going to be here a minute, like I'm getting ready. I'm getting stuff ready. Like I'm getting my bath stuff. I'm getting my pajamas. I'm getting everything ready. The house wasn't ready. I was like, I need to do stuff around here. So it took me about an hour to get there. We got there. We went up to labor and delivery.
So the doctor's like,
Gotta go now,
doctor's
Krista.
like scared out of his wits. He's like,
Called you
you
9 times.
and you're like, no.
Let me make sure I get my jammies.
This floor's gotta get mopped.
Yeah.
You're like, no, this floor's gotta get mopped. I gotta season that chicken first.
Right. So we go, they send me up to labor and delivery. So I show up, I'm like, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so's patient. Like they sent me here to be potentially induced, whatever. She's like, oh, okay, come on. Walks me down. John ends up knowing her from somewhere. I don't know. So they're talking. They put a PICC line in my hand, which was an awful experience. Then they took my urine and then all I remember, this all gets a little foggy for me at this point. So at this point, I'm just sitting, waiting, anxious, don't know what's going to happen. I'm asking them questions like, what's the most natural way to do this? I don't necessarily want to be induced. I want to avoid a C-section if I can. Like, what's happening with me? Like, what's happening with the baby? they're monitoring the baby, baby's fine. That's what prompted me to go to the doctor, was that I noticed the baby wasn't moving around as much. And I was like, oh, it's kind of odd. And it wasn't even like significant. It was just a little part of me that was like, something's not right. And I always say to John, like, I wouldn't have gone to the doctor. I was like, I wouldn't have gone to the doctor for myself. Like, if I felt off, I'd be like, I'm fine. But because the baby wasn't moving, I was like, no, let me call the doctor and just double check. That's what it was. So when you have preeclampsia, reduced fetal movement is also a symptom of it. By the time I got to the doctor, baby was fine. Baby was kicking. They did the heart monitor and all that stuff. He was fine. The baby was really fine through all of this. So we're sitting in labor delivery. They're deciding what to do with me. They at one point they're monitoring my blood pressure. It's still continuing to go up, but it's not astronomical yet. They're taking labs. They're doing all this stuff. So I would say it's a matter of like, we got to the hospital at like 5:45. By like 7:30, 8 o'clock. There were doctors coming in the room and saying to me, like, we need to have the baby now. Like, for the safety of you and your baby, we need to deliver this baby now. And I was like, is there any way we can wait this out? Like, she's like, your liver enzymes are 6 times what they're supposed to be. Your blood pressure is 200 something over 100 something. Like, it's not safe at this point. So I looked at John and was like, we got to do what we got to do. So I already have like health kind of anxiety due to some like family stuff that I've been through. And so the hospital is just not a place that I want to be in anyway. So I was very, very nervous to go through a C-section. Not what I planned at all, not what I wanted at all. I also have back problems, so I have some herniated discs. And I was very nervous about the recovery of a C-section because obviously it's all your core muscles that you're cutting open, and that supports your back. And so that was nerve-wracking to me. I ended up feeling my back feels better than it ever has actually after my C-section. So I don't know what they did in there, but I feel great now. So I remember being very anxious. I remember going in, they had wheeled me down to the operating room or whatever. And I don't know what they did with John. This is where it gets foggy for me, is I don't know what happened to John. I wasn't on anything. They didn't give me anything. We get to the operating room and everything, it looked like, what'd you say?
Do you guys find it bizarre that your husbands they just get like kidnapped at some point? They just get like taken away?
Yeah.
They just disappear. Like they're walking down the hall and like a hand just snatches them and
they just snatch him into the doorway. Yeah. So they wheel me into this operating room and it looked like something out of like Hell's Kitchen. Like everything was like very sterile and very silver. It looked like those like, those silver kitchen tops that you have in the back of Ruby Tuesdays, James, where they're like preparing your salads and stuff. And like, oh my God, like what is this? So we go in.
Were you in there like, where'd you guys get this? I would love this in my kitchen. Were you like,
yeah, right? Is this IKEA? What is this? So
is that right? Home good?
So they say to me, okay, we're gonna try to do a spinal on you. So spinal is different than a epidural. I think an epidural is a constant flow of basically, what's the stuff? I don't know if it's fentanyl. I don't know what it is, but something that, it's the drug that cuts off the feeling to the bottom half of you, right? So they tried to do a spinal on me first. I was terrified of that because obviously I had back problems. So you have to sit crunched over like a shrimp. They like, think of a shrimp. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, now I'm pregnant, right? I'm 34 weeks pregnant. Getting into a shrimp position with my big belly is not happening. So I'm like, how is this person going to get this thing in my back? So I'm hunched over. I'm shaking because I'm so scared. And this nurse is in front of me and she's like, you're fine, you got it. And she was just like not matching my energy. Like I was like, no, babe, like you're not understanding. Like I'm about to rip your arms off. So I had her arms and she's like, just hold on to me. You're fine. You're fine. She kept like reassuring me. I don't know where John is, somewhere suiting up in scrubs. I don't know. So I'm holding onto her arms and I'm like, she probably still has nail marks in her arms from me. And she was a trooper. Like she just let me hold onto her and they kept saying to me like, how does this feel? How does that feel? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm so focused on like just staying still. I don't know what I'm feeling. So finally they're like, okay, we're going to try and do an epidural on you. So they do the epidural, which is basically the same thing. It's just a constant stream of medicine, whereas a spinal tap is just kind of, it lasts temporarily and then it goes away, I guess. So they do the epidural. They get that, and he's like, okay, do you feel this? Do you feel this? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I kind of feel it to my left. I kind of feel it to my right. He's like, okay, great. And whatever they did, they were done with it. And he's like, okay, we're going to lay you down. They put you on this table. That's what they don't tell you about this, is they put you on this table that's probably like 2 by 2. It's so skinny and you're so large when you're pregnant, and then they lay you out. It's probably the most uncomfortable place to be. So then John all of a sudden appears and he's in scrubs and he's like, hi, I'm here. And I'm like, okay, hi. So then this doctor comes in, who I've never met before, and she's like, hi, Christa, I'm so-and-so. I'm going to be doing your surgery today. I'm like, okay, like, sure. So they have you hooked up to all these monitors and all this stuff. They're like, hey, we listen to music when we do our surgeries. What do you want to listen to? And I looked at John and go, I don't fucking care. Like, just tell them to get the baby out of me. This is not social hour for me. Like, I don't hate it here. I want to be done. Yeah.
Can we, Alexa, play Party Rockers?
So John's like, oh, she likes, she likes R&B. She likes old 50s music. He's like, she likes all this, all these different types of music. So they put music on. So I'll never forget, like, when they were wheeling me into the operating room, the anesthesiologist was who is that Asian comedian?
The doctor?
No. Well, yeah, I guess it could be him. No, Bobby, what is his name? Bobby something.
Bobby Lee, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, he had this bandana on that I'm pretty sure was tie-dye, and he was sitting up in like a windowsill, like on his phone playing Tetris or something. And they wheeled me around the corner and he's like, oh, this is our patient. And he hops down and he was like totally chill. He called me baby the whole time. He's like, how does this feel, baby? How does this feel, baby? I'm like, I don't even know this guy, but okay. But he made me feel really relaxed, which was nice. And then he had his other partner come in who was doing this all with him, and he looked like he was in like a Grateful Dead what do you call those, cover bands. And so I'm laying on the table. The two guys are doing anesthesia, and the doctor is cutting me open, and there's this big tarp in front of me and you can't see anything that's going on. And I remember just kind of feeling like disassociated. Like, I was like, and I always say to John, like, I think my body just shut down. Like, I think that I physically couldn't handle the amount of stress I was under, like worrying about my baby, worrying about if something happened to me, worrying what if something happened to both of us? Where would John be? John's here by himself. Like, all of these thoughts go through your head. So I fell asleep on the operating table, and that's not normal. So John's looking at the doctor, like, is she okay? Is she like going in and out of consciousness? Is she dying? And the doctor's like, no, like, she's doing it on her own. He's like, I haven't given her anything. And I remember going in and out of sleep. John would be like, are you okay? And I'd be like, yep, I'm fine. And I was just checked out. It was such an odd place to be. And I could hear the music. I could hear Amy Winehouse. I could hear Adele. I could hear the Beatles. I could hear all these things. And then I remember kind of dozing off for a few minutes. And then I remember waking up and being like, I'm going to throw up. And they give you this bag that's, the opening is probably as big as a grapefruit, and it's like this long bag, and you have to vomit in it, but your arms are plastered to the side and you can't move because, like, they're cutting you wide open on an operating table. So now I'm vomiting like off to the side in this bag, and it's green. I remember noticing it's like bright green, and I'm like, why is it green? And then all of a sudden I hear somebody say, like, okay, like, happy birthday, or whatever they say when you give birth. And I remember waiting to hear the baby cry. And it seemed like an eternity, but it was really like 2-3 seconds. But I heard him cry, and I was like, okay, it's over. Like, it's fine. Like, they're going to stitch me up. Everything's going to be fine. I must have conked out again, because then I woke up a little bit later and the baby was on the little weigh table, and John was next to him, and John was looking at me like, oh God, like, who do I go to? They cleaned the baby up. They wrapped him in a little burrito, and he was crying and crying and crying. And I do remember that they brought him over to my head, and I like wrapped my arm around him because that's the only thing I could do. And he stopped crying immediately. And I was like, oh, and then they didn't tell me, I don't remember them telling me that he had to go to the NICU, but they took him to the NICU. So when you're 34 weeks, you're obviously not fully developed yet. So his lungs were not fully developed. Everything else was fine. He was okay, but they had to take him to the NICU. So they whisked him off to the NICU. I only got that one moment with him. I told John before we went in, like, if they take that baby away from us, you follow that baby wherever the baby goes. They removed him. They finished stitching me up. They took me to a recovery room. I don't remember that transition at all. They took me to a recovery room, which is kind of like it almost looks like an army, like triage setup where like they have just like little screens in between and like there's people in it. I was sick again there. I still couldn't eat anything. The baby was someplace else. So now I'm like stressed out and I'm like, okay, am I okay? Is the baby okay? So John had gone, at that point, John didn't know where to go. They were just like, okay, we're taking your baby to the NICU, and then they leave you. And John's like, I don't know this hospital well enough to know how to get to the NICU from here. Like, where am I? I'm in this back alleyway, hospital hallway in an operating room. Like, I don't know where I'm going. So he found his way to the NICU. He found the baby. I had a really rough recovery. They couldn't stabilize my blood pressure right away. So they held me in the kind of triage recovery area for, I want to say, probably 8 hours. And they would not let me go up and see the baby because they couldn't stabilize my blood pressure, which of course upset me even more and probably drove my blood pressure up even further. Eventually there was like a shift change with the nurses, and the nurse that was on with us initially was like, don't worry, we'll make sure you get up to see your baby. I'll make sure before I leave you get up to see the baby. So shift changes, the new nurses come on, and John says to the nurses, hey, like they said we can go up and see the baby. And the nurse was like, oh no, I don't know why they told you that. And of course I lose my mind and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I just waited 8 hours in this recovery room, vomiting, not able to eat, and you're telling me I can't go see my baby? Like, so I lost it. John lost it on them. Eventually, so this was probably like 7:00 in the morning. So it wasn't until 7:00 or 8:00 the next morning that I was able to go and see the baby. At that point, obviously I'm still recovering. The baby is struggling to breathe in an isolette. So the NICU is a very sterile place to be. And many of the babies are in isolates when they're that small because they have to regulate their body temperature. They're still new to the world. They don't know how to do all that yet. So they have to do that kind of mechanically for them. But I remember I was in a wheelchair because I was obviously just fresh out of surgery and, my blood pressure was all wonky. I remember wheeling up to the isolette and watching him struggle to breathe. And there's nothing that I can compare it to other than like pure agony. Like, to watch this child that you've carried around for 9 months, that you couldn't wait for your whole life, to be in an isolette and have them struggle to breathe and you can't do anything. So that was really hard. We spent a week in the hospital, myself, just recovering with blood pressure issues, trying to regulate my blood pressure. The baby spent a week, 10 days, I think, in the NICU. They were not with me. We did not have a traditional birth experience where you get to have the little bassinet in your room and you get to feed the baby and put him back in the bassinet and just sit there and enjoy your time with your husband and have people come visit. It was a very, very different experience that obviously we wanted to have. Extremely stressful. They kept moving me to different floors of the hospital because they couldn't regulate my blood pressure.
You didn't even have a chance to do the latching. Like, Kristen had a chance to do it, and it sounds like you didn't even get that opportunity.
No. And the odd thing is that I asked for, so I didn't necessarily know if I was going to breastfeed or not, but I had asked for lactation consultants to come in and just talk to us. Cause like, if we went home after all that, we didn't know it was going to happen, right? In those first couple days. So I had asked for them to send a lactation consultant in to like talk with us and no one ever came. They never sent one. Even after we went home, nobody ever followed up, anything like that. It was I know the amount of care that you get postpartum needs to be talked about because it needs to be better, honestly. But anyway, that's another subject. So yeah, they couldn't regulate my blood pressure. He was in the NICU for 10 days. I was on multiple floors. I was on labor and delivery. I was in the special care unit. Eventually, when they had to give me an IV drug to stabilize my blood pressure, they had to put me on the PICU floor, which is like it's like a NICU, but it's like a step down, I think. And I was feeling awful. I hadn't showered in like 4 days. The nurses were fantastic. I will say that they sympathized with me. They understood. They listened to me cry. They heard me out. They put me in a wheelchair every time they could get a chance to take me to the NICU. But it was a struggle. Like, I couldn't spend the afternoon with my baby. I couldn't, spend any real time with my baby because I was not feeling well myself. They wouldn't let me go see the baby, like, just because of my blood pressure issues and stuff. But, the nursing staff would whisk me off to another floor to like let me shower because the showers didn't work on the PICU floor apparently. So they had to like take me away and kidnap me and like go bring me to a shower that was in another part of the hospital. So it was just a very chaotic and traumatic experience for us. At the end of the day, so part of him being in the NICU was obviously his breathing wasn't well. So 2 days into him being there, they had said to us, you know, his breathing's not improving. We want to do a surfactant treatment. So surfactant is a naturally occurring element, something that's in your lungs already. But because if you're born earlier, apparently your body can not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily produce it as well. So they wanted to do a surfactant treatment. So obviously I'm anxious already. And I'm like, I don't know anything about surfactant treatments. I don't know what this is all about. So I did some research. I talked to John. And we had to decide. You have to make decisions quick in these circumstances. So we ended up doing the surfactant treatment. It ended up helping him, which was great. But it was a lot of anxiety that went around that. And like, he's a brand new baby. He's hours old, and you want to put a tube into his lungs to give him surfactant. Like, I don't know what that even means. So that was kind of stressful, but the NICU doctor that walked us through it, I was so thankful for him. If I could recommend him to be doctor of the year for the rest of his life, I would. He was so wonderful and so patient and so kind. And when I had questions about things, he's like, you know, that's a great question. I don't even know the answer for you. I'm going to go research it. And he would follow up with me and he would tell me what he found. And so he was really great. Honestly, the NICU staff was great there. I will say that the hardest part of your baby not being with you in those circumstances is one time I went up to go see him, and they have visitors come in or volunteers come in and they hold the babies because they understand that moms are recovering someplace else. Moms can't be there all the time. The babies need to like be held. Like, that's just a thing, right? And I walked in one day and there was a visitor, or a volunteer that was holding my baby, right? And I didn't know this person. And I walked, it wasn't like a nurse. It wasn't like a trained professional that was holding my baby. But I had such limited times to hold my baby because he was hooked up to tubes and on oxygen, and I had very limited opportunities to hold him. But I walked in and saw somebody else holding him, and like, it crushed me because I was like, as a mother, you're like, I'm supposed to be holding my baby. I'm not well enough to hold my baby. I can't hold my baby. They won't even let me leave the hospital room to come hold my baby. And to see somebody else holding them and having those moments with them, like, absolutely crushed me. Like, I could die thinking about it. So that's really hard. But
Kristen,
anyway,
did the same thing happen to you? Did you
To
have
me?
the same situation happen? Yeah.
No, because Christopher was full term. He was 41 weeks when he was born.
Oh, okay.
So he was in my room with me from, the moment we got there, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Gotcha.
it's very different for everybody.
No.
And so, I mean, honestly, the C-section part of it for me was the easiest part. So whatever angel did my C-section, did a wonderful job. You can't even tell that I had a C-section. I was in little to no pain. I did only Tylenol, or whatever they gave me, just basic Tylenol or Advil or whatever. And after 5 days, I think of it on Tylenol, I was like, I don't need this anymore. I'm fine. I was up walking around. I was fine. Everything healed wonderfully. I have a lot of friends, not a lot of friends, but I have a few friends that struggled postpartum after their C-section with the healing process. If they could not heal, you could have already had a C-section prior and have scar tissue there, and it doesn't heal right, and it never heals, and they have to go and back in, and you can get infections, and there's so many things that can occur with that. Where, I have a friend that their wound didn't close for months. Like, imagine having a wound that was just wide open, that exposed, they cut through 7 layers of your body to get the baby out, like, and it didn't heal, and it was pussing, and it was oozing, and it was infected, and it was back and forth to the doctor. Like, and trying to recover and be a mom and be a wife while all of that's happening to your body is awful. Everybody's experience is a little different. The C-section was not the biggest part for me, or the biggest challenge for me. It was kind of the postpartum period of like the past year and a half, honestly. So like, I've been struggling to, maintain my blood pressure. We went through different maternal fetal medicine doctors and things like that, and ended up finding a really good cardiologist at the end of the day. Which is why I say it's important to like have these doctors aligned before you go into the hospital, because you don't know what's going to happen and you don't know what kind of resources and backup you're going to need. But I have a wonderful cardiologist that manages my blood pressure. I went into the hospital on 1 blood pressure med. I came out on 6. I'm back down to 1 a year and a half later, but it's been a process. And those medications don't always leave you feeling well. And on top of all the hormones that happened after having a baby and the anxiety that comes with it, and there's just lots of things that happen to your body after you have a baby that all add to that experience and don't necessarily make it a pleasant experience all the time. So it's been a struggle, but we're finally on the other side of it. And they say it takes 2 years, 2 solid years to kind of feel like yourself again. At a year and a half, almost at a year and a half now, and I'm just starting to feel like myself again.
Awesome. Well, the good thing is you made it through all of that, and baby is here, healthy. Both of your babies are healthy, young men, and it definitely seems like it's interesting. You both have a very significant journey, a journey where there was a lot of like, probably, I'm sure, like uncertain moments or questioning, like, are we making the right decisions? So let's do some Q&A. So you guys are leaving the hot. So first of all, it sounded like as husbands or partners, it sounded like they were kind of like a little restricted in what they could do for you. Like a lot of it sounds like they were kind of like just directed, like, hey, go here, put this on, do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like they really didn't have like the capacity to even really be there for you, like physically even, right? Because like even like physically, they're told like, hey, you can't be near her while we're giving her this epidural. Go put these scrubs on. So like you can't really get the physical connection with your partner. It sounds like, and it's even if they did try, the hospital just won't let them, right? And then emotionally, they can be there for you, but it's like it's even hard for them to, it's a tough situation. Like how can a partner be there emotionally for you for their expecting mother? Like what's something that a male partner could do, if anything?
I think that the preparation, I mean, I think we've had this conversation too a little bit. Like, I think the preparation starts before the birth experience, right? I think as a woman, I can speak for, I think, both of us, but as a woman, you take a lot of the responsibility on yourself. And if you're the woman of the household, you're worried about meals, you're worried about bills, you're worried about this, you're worried about this, who has to be picked up today, who has to be dropped off today, who has a doctor's appointment? Do I have a doctor's appointment? I have to work still? Okay. So I think there's something to be said for helping women prepare in advance and being able to be there to support them in running those errands or to just picking up the mental load some days or, taking just something off of her plate to be able to like not have to worry about just another thing. Right. I think that's important. Because I think that in a situation like I was in where you're not prepared and you don't make it to your full term and there's millions of things to now be done that you weren't prepared for. And I had a list, I had a huge master list of like all the things I wanted to do before, the baby came, and none of them got done because, life took a turn, right? So
Right.
I think being able to have some help ticking some of those things off the list.
Okay.
And not feeling like it's all on you to worry about. As a first time mother, you're excited to do all those things and you're excited to prepare. But I think you just kind of have to take the reins sometimes as a partner and say like, I got this. Like I'm gonna handle this, and don't worry about it. It's one thing that you don't have to worry about. What else can I do? And I think it's hard. The what else can I do, or what do you want me to do, is also a hard question, because it's like we still have to do the thought process behind it and think about all the things you have to do. My thing is that if you live by yourself, right, you would have to do all of these things as well. So do them.
Can I add to that? The question of what do you want me to do or what should I do next, right? It sounds like it's a question that can lead to a level of frustration. But let me give you, because this is Battle Hardened Dad, let me give you the male's perspective as to what do you want me to do. When you are kind of like the dry, like, so sometimes we as men, sorry if this sounds sexist, but we as men, we lean heavily on our partners for like critical thinking and critical decision making, right? And when you guys are really good at that, we let you just run. Like, okay, my wife or my partner knows me. She knows what I want. She knows what needs to be done. I am just the vessel or the tool or the mechanism to get it done. Like, you tell me.
You're the brunt and we're the brain.
Right, right. Like, I'm literally just the wrench. Like, I'll listen. I'll tighten anything you want, but like, you gotta tell me. We're the
You
guy
gotta tell me
from,
what time, when to show up, what to wear.
right, we're like the guy from, oh, the Wizard of Oz, who he's like, if I only had a brain, you know. But like, so I understand your frustration, but also it's also something you guys should consider. It's like a testament to you. Like, if your partner feels like he can just focus on functional things, do what he needs to do, that means there's also a level of trust. It's not that men can't do this type of thinking on their own. We can, 100%. But like, if we have you here as our partner and you are really good at that thinking, it kind of frees us up to be more of like the muscle. So it's like, yes, for you, it might be a little frustrating, like, why do I have to say that? Why is it not more intuitive? Why is it not that? But like, understand the willingness is so there to do what's needed. So if
Right.
you tell a man like, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to, the willingness will be there. It's just that we do like a little direction from you guys. And that's not to say that we're duds or we're not, but we feel like we have that reliability in our partner.
That's a
Now,
nice way of romanticizing it, James. So that's a nice way of romanticizing it.
it's true though. Now, what you can do to like overcome this hump is you can, like you said, prepare and plan early, right? So if like, all right, knowing what we learned here, right? Like, the baby can come early. Baby can come unexpected. You both had to deliver in a way that you did not expect it to happen. So like, now in hindsight, or anyone who's watching this can take away of like, hey, look, stuff could happen at 28 weeks, stuff could happen at 34 weeks, etc. We got to sit down and make a plan together. And then like, the partner, the male, husbands, boyfriends, whoever, can actually say, hey, look, help me help you, right? Help me help you in a sense of, I know that there's things that you like to do. Like, hey, look, my wife is also type A personality. Like, she likes things done her way. She's very particular about it, right? To a point
Mhm.
where it's like, I feel like sometimes if you guys can be so type A, it can be a hindrance. Like, it's got to be done this way. It's got to be 100%. It's got to be exactly the way I do it, or I don't want to accept it at all. To a point where it's like, listen, even if it's not done 100% the way the world will still turn, right? Their baby came early. You didn't have anything that you needed done on your list. And where are you even thinking about it right now? Like, is it even like a big issue? Right. So, like, together we have to be able to pivot for the unknown. But, like, if you guys, as expecting mothers, continue this, like, standard of, like, 100%, it's got to be precise, it's got to be the way, and you continue that throughout, like, you're just going to make yourself and your partner go crazy because you're now setting a standard that's not always feasible because of the fact that our environment, our life is changing. So it's not, unfortunately, yeah, like, the dishes are gonna be dirty. Maybe I can't clean the whole house before I go to the hospital. How fucking type A was that? Like, I'm gonna go clean first, dude. What?
So
Like,
to your point, that's something that I've learned not only as a mother or, but I've learned it as a wife, is that I'm very type A and I like things done a certain way, and I'm very detail oriented, and I've learned to be patient with myself, and I've learned to give up the reins a little bit. And I think that's something that women have to do in these situations, is like, you also have to be, and that, I think it boils down to, just, that could be a whole other podcast, is like, it boils down to the foundation of your relationship, and can you trust this person to relinquish some of that control, even if
yeah,
it's not perfect, even if, like, it's work on both ends, I think.
right. And that's, I feel like all type A expecting mothers are probably challenged with that, right? Like, that like, you have to let go of control. Like, and like, I almost feel like you you want so much control. You almost like your brain is consistently looking for stuff that's wrong so you can critique it. It feels that way from a man's perspective. It just feels like, okay, now you're just looking, you're just picking, you're just finding stuff to like critique so you have some sort of sense of control. And it's like, you gotta let it go, baby girl. Like you can't, you just can't,
Well,
you can't.
I think you have to think of how it's affecting the other person too. Like, how would you feel how would I feel if I had to deal with me that was constantly nitpicking or constantly, and I don't do this out loud anyway, but like, how would I feel if I was constantly, that's not right. Why did you do it like that? Or what were you thinking when you did it like this? Or like, I would feel really down on myself if that were how my partner was talking to me. Right. So that's how I've always functioned in relationships, though, is that like I take a step back and I think about it before I say it, and I count to three. Me and John have had this conversation, like, count to three before you say something, because once you say it, you can't take it back. So I think that it's important to think of your partner in those situations as well, and be able to say, like, okay, how are they receiving this message? Not only how am I delivering it, but how are they receiving it, and how would that make me feel if I was on the receiving end of this?
Right. And remember too, like I feel like sometimes, especially dealing with type A partners, sometimes, and I'm not picking on anybody, but I feel like sometimes you guys forget we're on the same team. Like we're playing for the same team, bro. Like I'm willing to like do whatever, but like you gotta treat me like a teammate. And sometimes that, even I'm speaking from my own experience too, like that doesn't always feel like it's the case. And it feels like on your guys' side, it's like, yeah, I'm yearning for that teammate, but it's like we try to be your teammate. You're like, but get off the court. You suck. You suck. It's like, dude,
You're half the team.
what, what do you want me to do?
Do better, guys. I don't know.
It's like, yeah, you scored, but I don't like the way you threw the ball. It's like, okay, I scored. Yeah, but like we like to look good when we do it. All right. Oh, I don't know what to say. It's a really, it's a really tight box that we get squeezed in, during that like again, like even like I want to say even in my own experience, like the second trimester, I noticed that's when Melissa was getting like real real picky about like what I'm
Real
eating.
type A.
Yeah, like real picky about what I'm eating and like, did you do this yet? How come you didn't do this? When are you gonna do this? I'll do it myself. It's like where's the like chill? Like we got 36 hours to do this. Why do I have to do it?
I think what it is your lack of urgency needs to like come up and meet our level of anxiety.
Good. Can I share this? I had this theory. Right? I feel like, okay, as humans and our partners, at some point we become spiritually connected with our partner, right? Especially if someone we're having a baby with. I think the spiritual tie deepens. With that said, I feel like there's a strand in women where they're spiritually connected to their partner that it connects them emotionally. So with that said is, if I'm happy, somehow you tend to be happy. But like if you are upset about a situation and you don't see that I'm upset about it, because we're spiritually connected, you start to feel, it's almost like it feels unsettling to you that we're both not sharing the same emotion. So I feel like that's like something spiritual where like if my wife says something funny, or if she's laughing and she's like, "Oh, you don't think it's funny?" Like, or you don't think I'm funny? It's like, no, she's taking it as, hey, like I'm connected with you, and like how come you're not sharing the same emotion? Even like with Maverick, okay, with my son, she'll be like, Maverick has another runny nose, and I'm like, oh, I'm sure he's fine. Oh, you always think he's. It's like it's like
You
it's
gotta
like
meet our anxiety level, man.
you like always downplay everything, and it's like, no, dude, like he's gonna get a sniffy nose, he's gonna get a runny nose. It doesn't mean we don't have to go to the doctor every time. And it's just like I am so chill, and I think a lot of guys are like so like, oh, okay, like kid bumped his knee, he's fine, like he'll be okay. And like mother's like, you don't care, like does it not matter to you? Like what is like? I bet it was, if it was a football, like you get all this other stuff, and it's just like, no, I just think that he's gonna get hurt every now and then. He'll be okay.
Yeah.
So I never, yeah, explain that one.
I think I
No,
I think, but think of the people that end up together, right? So then, like, if Melissa's type A and you're more chill and you're like type B, C, D, like, those people usually end up together, right? And like John always says, like, you're the yin to my yang. Like, you worry about the things that I don't necessarily even think about in my day. And I've already thought about them 6 different ways and how this can play out and what's going to need to get done 6 years from now to make sure that we're successful here. Those people end up together, right? So like, and it leads to like a balance, right? It's not always a fun balance, and it's not always I think that it's just, you have to be able to recognize when your partner is struggling, and they have to be able to recognize when you're struggling, and you kind of have to prepare in advance for that. Like, you have to know them so well that like, I know this one's going to struggle with this. Like, John knows, like, I can't say this to her right now because she's not in a place to receive it. So I'm going to wait a day and then I'm going to say it to her. And I feel the same way about him. Like, I know if he's not in a place to receive something that I'm about to say to him, and I have to be strategic.
I struggle with that one. I struggle with that one because like I didn't know like there's a time and place. Like I always thought like, hey, I could just walk in and be like,
I'm going to say this now.
I gotta throw this on you. So like to going back to the whole anxiety thing, right? Because I know we're kind of bouncing, but this is a key point. Like what's something we can do as men? Like okay, you know, you're worried about like impending doom and like what if like Halley's Comet in 75 years actually smashes into Earth? Like, are we prepared for that? Like, what if the Earth like caves in on itself? Are we prepared? Like, how do we help you manage those moments of anxiety? And at the same time, how do we be supportive? Because it's like I would love to go to my wife and be like, hey, that's not gonna happen. But like then it would just like it would be like she was just
I'll give you a really good example. John and I were having a conversation the other night, and I said, like, hey, you should really make sure you have X, Y, and Z in order. You should really make sure that you have certain documents or whatever. And he kind of brushed it off to me and was like, oh, it's not a priority. We don't need to do that right now. But to me, it's causing me severe anxiety to know that these things are not in order and we don't have these things at hand, on hand, ready to go. So I think in those situations, sometimes I wonder, and not necessarily for him, but just in general, like, is it an ego thing? Is it like, listen, like I know it's not necessary right now. Like, I'll get it done when I feel like it needs to get done. But us as women are like type A, and we want to be prepared, and we want everything in order, and we want everything done now, so that when we get to that situation where we're like, oh shit, we wish we had this in order, we can avoid that additional anxiety that comes then. So it's almost like having anxiety before we need to have anxiety.
But do you see what you're doing to yourself? You're like, I'm gonna stack anxiety on top of anxiety. I'm just gonna stack it.
Yes. But like, we get it done. We're proactive. Like, I feel like it's being proactive. I feel like it's getting ahead of the situation. I feel like it's getting ahead of the true anxiety that's going to happen if we get in a situation where like we need this to be done, or we need to be on top of this. Whereas like, he's like, I'll worry about it when we need to worry about it. I'm not that worried about it right now. He's just very chill. He's like, it's not an urgent matter. Whereas like, everything is urgent to me. Like, everything is like, let's just get it done now so we don't have to worry about it later. Yeah.
Here's the thing. If everything for us, and I'll tell you exactly what's going on as a man. So, if everything is urgent, then nothing is urgent. It's like the boy who cried wolf. After a while, we're gonna just see you are just okay. Everything's urgent. Now, in your mind, everything is legit urgent, but it's like, dude, you told me this was urgent yesterday. We're just gonna start to kind of prioritize things in our mind, and then like we're not gonna treat everything the same way you do. Like it's not an ego thing. It's just kind of like if I told you every day, like okay, so I use the example like if you go on CNN or Fox right now, right? You know the first thing you'll see? Let's just say breaking news. It's on there static. So like for me, if I go on either one of those networks and I'm like, I need to know like what's really is something crazy happening, I may just like the world could be caving in, but because I see breaking news, I'd be like, it's the same old news, right? So it becomes just static to us and white noise where it's like, yes, there's actually something seriously happening right now, but because you tell me every day it's breaking news, I don't know the difference between when it's real stuff is on fire versus like you just really want me to take care of this. Yeah. So it's easier if you kind of like come to us, and I'm not putting it, I'm sorry if it comes off like I'm putting on it, but like if you were to come to us and say, hey, look, I'll tell you this sounds a whole lot better. Hey, husband Joe or husband Steve, right? Hey, can you take care of this by X? Sounds a lot better than when are you going to do this? Can you do this now? Can you
100%. Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
also think on the flip side, you guys can come to us and say, hey, I know these are all priorities for you. Can we sit down and figure out what's 1, 2, and 3 on your list and when we need to get this done by? Like that would be an anxiety relief for me, for sure. It's like if somebody else was like sharing in that mental load and being able to say, I recognize that these are all things that need to get done, that need to be a priority. In what order do we need to do these in? Can we prioritize them from most important to least important? And I can help you get them done. Like, I think that would be helpful. And I think, especially going back to like C-sections and postpartum and aftercare and all those things, like that would be helpful pre baby and then after baby.
okay, understood. So I'll also like chime in and say like, okay, from my own experience, right? Like Melissa found our daycare for Maverick, right? I had no hand, like I had no hand in that. And I'm just talking, let me actually go back a step because I'm going to make it more relevant to what we're talking about. But like when it came to, there was a sheet that we were given from our midwife of like your check sheet of like pre-pregnancy, like here's all the things you need to do, blah, 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 blah. I didn't look at it. And the reason I didn't look at it is because I trusted my wife to handle it. Like it does. I'm not saying it in a way where it's like, oh, I don't care. It's just, and this is another reason why I'm starting this podcast. Like we as men, we're not educated. Like we don't know. Like we just assume. Like you got to think about like what culture has taught us, what society has taught us, what we saw our parents. Like we don't see men involved to this level, right? So for us, it's not intentionally like, hey, we don't want to walk into the space. It's a space that we don't know. And then sometimes that space is met with frustration because maybe you're expecting us to be there, but we didn't even know we were supposed to be there. So now we have like this weird pool where it's like, you're expecting me to be here, but I don't know I'm supposed to be here. It's kind of like someone's
And I don't
coming
know
in the
what to
room
do.
like,
And I don't
and
know what to
saying,
do when I get there.
yeah, and like I don't now. Okay, yeah, now I'm here. Like, what do I do? Like, you told me to come here, and what do I? But you told me to come here, so now I'm just literally like following your tail
Along for
because
the
you
ride.
invited me into the space. So
Yeah.
like I don't know. So I feel like that's where like there needs to be some sort of grace for men because it's like, hey, it's not that we don't want to be supportive. It's not that we don't care. It's just that we don't know. So like even like I said, like the whole pregnancy, paper that Melissa was given, she's like, you never even looked at it because I saw you making moves. I thought you were taking care of everything. It's like I want you to feel like you're part of it, and it's like,
I
okay.
think it's frustrating. I think what it comes down to is as a woman, like it's frustrating to see you guys are you're so invested in football, right? You're so invested. You could tell me anything that's inside and out about football. Somebody hands you a trading card or a video of so and so. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're invested. You don't have to think twice. You're not handing off that video to me. You're not, you know what I mean? Or you're not handing off that trading card to me and being like, "Oh, can you handle this?" Like you're invested in things that you want to be invested in, and that's fine. But I think that there comes a point in as adults that there's a realization like not everything that you are involved in is something you're going to be interested in or excited about. So, and I always say like function as if I'm not there, right? Function as if you have to make that decision in the moment by yourself. What are you going to do? And I think it would just be nice in those postpartum pre-postpartum, whatever, pre-baby, like if men functioned in that space, right? Like is we're not pretend we're not here. What would you do if we were not here? Like you are your own person. You are equally as responsible for this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you vocalized to us like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Like I'd be like, yeah, like tell me more.
Gotcha. But that's the thing. It's like when you say function as if you're not here, right? Like, could we, how can, I don't know, I know this may sound unfair, but like, how can the expecting mother take lead on getting the father to where he needs to be? Is it unfair or unreasonable for a mother to say, hey, look, Now that we know that we're pregnant, let's sit down because I want to have a conversation with you about planning. Is it wrong to expect the mother to take the lead on that conversation?
I think it can come from either party. I think that it depends on where your headspace is as a woman, as a mother that just found out she's pregnant, and everything that's going on in your life. I don't think there's any specific designation of who should come first to the table with that, right? Like, and I guess my question to you is why do you feel like it should be the woman?
I don't necessarily feel like it should be the woman. I'm just more so looking for grace in the scenario where it happens to be the woman. So like in the scenario, okay, like you may have men out there who are like also super type A's and they're gonna be like, hey, I'm on it, boom, 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 boom. But then you may have men who are maybe not type A's, but they're, let me be clear. I want to say the overwhelmingly majority of men who are expecting a baby with a wife or a woman that they're romantically involved with is excited. They're super excited. Even if you're not romantically involved with a woman, most of the men are pretty excited about the baby, right? What to do next, we don't necessarily know. So if we don't know, and now I'm going to take it a step further, right? What about the men who don't even have a circle of men around them to give them the guidance? Or
Mm-hmm.
even like a situation where your father could even give you guidance, right? So now you're really like in la la land, and it's kind of like it's like dropping me in a foreign country, right? Like I don't know the rules here. I'm willing to learn, but I may make mistakes because I don't know, right? So like how do we give grace, or how do we have graceful conversations where the dude just don't know?
And I think like you bring up a good point. Like, not you're only as good as the tools in your toolbox, right? So if you haven't had that experience, haven't had any mentors, don't have people around you that are giving you this example to live by, right? Then you are just in the middle of being dropped in the middle of a country that you don't know the language and you don't know what to do, and where do I get water? Like, but I think that this is why I say it has to start before the baby, right? These conversations need to start way before baby. These conversations should be happening before marriage, in my opinion, but that's another topic for another podcast. But that's how me and John function, is like we've had all these tough conversations. We've had, and we still struggle with certain things, or like the paperwork that I want him to get done that is not done yet, or whatever. And I'm sure he has equal frustrations with me, right? I think it needs to start before. It's the anxiety of starting it before everything starts to go downhill, right? Or everything starts to unravel, because once you're in those moments, it's survival mode, and you're just living, and you're not being cognizant of what the other person's feeling, how the other person's feeling. Are they overwhelmed? Did I deliver that message appropriately? I just think you need to think in advance. You need to be prepared for those moments and start those conversations earlier.
So I think in summary, it's like if guys are listening to this, if you engage in the conversation. So like if I'm a guy and maybe I'm a little bit more chill and everything like that, and my wife has got this or my partner's got that, one thing you can do to kind of elevate things is proactively, even if you don't have the birth plan, hey, let's look into a birth plan so we get aligned. That way she feels like you're interested in.
Even just like saying, like, being vulnerable and saying, like, I don't know where to start with this. Like, this is
Ooh,
an unknown dimension to me, and you may not know either, but I want to figure this out together. But owning that message of like, hey, I don't know what the hell to do right now. Like, can we talk through this together? I
okay.
think that being vulnerable in that circumstance it would
Let,
be beneficial.
let me also share this with you. If you want the guy to also be vulnerable, consider how you say things and when you say things. So like if you do that whole like anxiety, 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 it also makes it harder for him to be vulnerable because then it's like, okay, like this is also the same person that's been like telling me I'm doing this wrong, I'm doing that wrong, I'm doing this wrong. And then it's like you want me to open up to her as well. It's like no, that's like it's like leaving yourself exposed. So it's like I think you are right. I think if a man can find himself in a position where he's vulnerable and going to his partner saying, I don't know, I think for like as a man, I think that would feel amazing because it's like at least like I was comfortably able to tell her, listen, I don't know, and I didn't fear getting like a response that made me feel like, hey, you're kind of incompetent, or like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you not know this information? That's the biggest thing. Like with men, it's like when you want your man to be vulnerable, men like to be vulnerable. They can be vulnerable, but it's like it's hard to be vulnerable in a situation where like, okay, you may feel like you're gonna get attacked.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the fair balance can be. So if you sense your partner becoming a male, ready to become vulnerable with you, like don't
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 rip their face off.
don't let hands. Come on, I've been waiting. I got a lot of anger to get out. Like
No, you both need to be each other's safe space. Like you need to be able to both send and receive messages.
got it. So safe space conversations pre 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 baby will help build for better success after baby comes and less anxiety throughout the pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And then one few final questions 'cause I know we had you guys here for a while. What is like
Technical difficulties.
so like when you think about leaving the hospital and like the post care from a C-section, like what is that like? Like do they just like send you home and like here's like a folder with some instructions, or is it like we want to see you every other day? Like how does that work?
No, you just get sent home and you get, basically some aftercare instructions and restrictions that you have to, go by. You're not allowed to really, I know, I mean, for you, it was probably a little bit different, but, you're not allowed to lift anything more than the baby. Don't climb up and down the stairs. Like, don't stand more than like cooking a meal for yourself. That was what they told me. Don't stand in the kitchen.
I definitely didn't listen to.
Yeah, like I was trying to carry laundry up the stairs but I remember like I couldn't even get off my couch. I had to like scoot to the very edge of the couch and then like push myself up to be able to stand up. Um, but like I couldn't drive. I wasn't allowed to drive for several days, or weeks. I can't even remember. And it's a very yeah. Like for somebody like me who doesn't sit still and is always doing everything, cleaning, cooking, laundry, all the things, like, and then you have this new baby and
That you're supposed to be taking care of.
yeah, you want to be doing things and like you want to, your house starts to get messy, the laundry's piling up, like all the things that are giving you anxiety and you don't like sitting around looking at it and you're told you can't do anything at all, that you're not allowed to do anything, right? So I didn't see my doctor until my 6-week checkup. And
Yeah.
at that point, that's when they look at your incision and make sure it healed properly, and then you're cleared from all your restrictions, and you can go back to normal activity. Basically is at that point. So
And then there's the hormones.
yes, yeah, night sweats and emotions, and yeah, that was too.
Did your husbands participate? Like did they have to do anything special? Did they like have to
Um,
examine you or anything like that?
so there were a couple times that I made John just like look at my incision and make sure that it was like healing okay and everything was fine. Only because I was worried, like I was just nervous. Like I can't see it that close. Like, I can't fold myself out to like see what's going on. So there were a couple times that I had him do that. But like the biggest thing he had to do was the first night. So we came home. We were home 2 nights by ourselves without the baby. So we had to leave the hospital without our baby, which was another hard thing to do. But it gave us a couple days to get things together that we needed to get together. We had to build a bassinet. We had nothing to put him in when he came home. So like, we got stuff to do. Did you get that paperwork?
Yo, that is crazy because I feel like that's something that truly does happen. Hey,
Yeah.
where's the paperwork by the way? It's like, bro.
No, the only thing that really I remember like John having to, I mean, John did a lot. So we didn't, I mean, I couldn't get up off the couch without feeling I was going to pass out. I was so like dizzy and sick from just the hormones and the blood pressure medications and my blood pressure being all out of whack. And I spent a lot of time just sitting on the couch and crying because I couldn't do anything. Like I physically wasn't well enough to do anything. The day that we came home, that we were home by ourselves before the baby came home, I was just so weak and like he had to shower me. I was so weak. I just kind of like stood in the shower and let the water run but he made sure I didn't fall and all of those things. And then I went to sleep that night and I went to go get up in the middle of the night and I couldn't get up. So in the hospital, you have like the bars on the side of the bed to pull yourself up, but you've cut through all of your abdomen and your muscles. So like you can't just get up like you usually do. So I remember we hadn't slept, right? So I like the doctors were coming in every hour on the hour to check my stats and take blood and give me pills and things like that. So we had not slept in the hospital, at least through the whole night. So I felt bad for him because I knew that it was a lot on him. He was worried about me. He was worried about the baby. Like, this is his first time going through it. So he hadn't slept. So I woke up in the middle of the night and had to pee really bad. And I was trying to get up myself. Like, I was trying any way I could, any way to turn to like pull myself up to get up to pee. And I couldn't get up and I didn't want to wake him up. And I just sat there and cried. Yeah. Like, and he woke up and he was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Like, I was like, "I have to pee and I didn't want to wake you up," but like got me up, took me to the bathroom, like those. He was really good. He was really good with postpartum stuff. Like, he made sure we had bottles clean and we had laundry clean, and he had to do a lot of the heavy lifting for the first, I would say, the first 3 months, like my entire maternity leave, because I wasn't well.
And then how about you, Kristen?
Yeah, I mean, it was very different for us, I guess, like as a whole, right? So my experience was a lot different. But I definitely remember coming home from that hospital and trying to get out of bed at night and like not knowing how to even like what to grab onto to like steady myself, and I'd have to like roll out of bed. And it's just a very, like you said, helpless feeling. I don't like feeling like I can't do something for myself, and I get very upset and I get very emotional, and that was tough on me, and I mean, thankfully Chris was home and he did everything he needed to do, and he learned pretty quickly how to make bottles and change diapers, do all the things, but there were a lot of ugly parts to those first few months, postpartum wise for me. And I was diagnosed with something called an adjustment disorder, and I had a very hard time kind of adjusting to new life with a baby. And I think some of it was postpartum rage, and I just wasn't diagnosed properly. But there were nights where we were up all night long, and then once Chris went back to work, it was anytime the baby woke up and started crying, guess who was in there? It was me. And I had sleepless nights, and I got so mad at Chris and I resented him so much because he got to sleep while I was up all night long. And, in the sense, right, it's not like he just gets to sleep, but he would sleep through it. And so I would be very vocal about that. And I would, stomp around and slam the door and get upset because I had to get up every single time. And then I'd be sitting in that chair. And I think I've told her, like, her and John bought us the recliner that's was in Christopher's room. Now it's in our family or playroom. But like, I would sit in that chair and I can't tell you how many nights I cried for like an hour because I just would hysterically cry because like having a new baby who wouldn't sleep, and if like you tried to put him in his crib, he'd wake up and so all of that stuff was really, really hard when he was an infant. And, we got through it, but it wasn't easy. So.
That sleep thing is no joke.
No. It's no joke.
When you're not feeling well, on top, that was the hardest thing for me, is that I wasn't feeling well. And I was a new mom, and I wanted nothing more than to have this baby. And then I had this baby and I couldn't even take care of it because I wasn't well myself. And they say like sleep is, I now know, and it's true. Like, sleep really does heal your body. And I was not healing my body properly because I wasn't sleeping. I was forcing myself to get up with the baby. And John's like, I'll get up with him. I'm like, this is important to me. I want to get up with him. I want to be able to feed him his bottles in the night. I want to be able. But like, I can't tell you how many nights I cried just sitting there, not feeling well, feeling like I was going to pass out, feeling like, being in pain because I was still healing or whatever. And those were rough nights, but that no sleep is no joke, man.
Right. Yeah. So let me address Kristen. I can relate to your situation, Kristen, because I kind of went through the same thing with Melissa, where like, okay, I'm sleeping through the night. Like, Melissa's breastfeeding, so I really like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So I am sleeping through the night, but I'm also going to work in the morning. And I am also waking up to do other things around the house. So it's like it's tough on us because it's like you're seeing us as like as if like
Yes.
you're seeing us as if like we're just like we're on like a sleep number mattress and we're just freaking having a good time.
Your life didn't change. You still get to go about your typical like routine or exactly that. You have to wake up and go to work in the morning. I did too. Like I still had to work as well. At this point, most of it was after our
Right,
maternity and paternity leave.
right.
And if he got sick and he was crying every hour on the hour and we'd go in there and try to put him back to sleep, like it was me because Chris had to get up and go to work the next day. Well, I have to work too. Like I'm working. Just because I work from home doesn't mean that like my job is not as important as yours.
Hmm.
And that we struggled with that a lot because he would say, well, I have to get up in the morning. I have to go to work. Yeah, so do I.
I think a lot of us struggle with that. Like I feel like, and this is good conversation because it's like we're seeing a problem from two different lenses. The problem is like everybody's tired for right, but like the guy feels like, hey, I gotta get this rest because I gotta wake up, I gotta do pretty tough job, I gotta also do other stuff here. And then you're seeing it's like, well, I also have to do stuff too, and I have to work and take care of the baby. So and then like that you also hit a big keyword is like, well, it's like I'm the only one whose life changed. Like I went through that too, like where Melissa would say to me like, it feels like I'm the only one that's adapting to being a parent. It feels like you're trying to hang on to your old life.
Mm.
And I'm like, in what way, dog? Like, and it was interesting because it was like the simple things like, oh, I like to watch football on Sundays. And like, for me, it's like something simple, but for her, it was like triggering a sense of like, isn't there something else you should be doing or you want to do? Like, are you just trying to hold on to your old life and do all the things you used to do before the baby? And it was just like, it was a really hard conversation because it's like, does this person want me to just drop everything that I enjoy? It's like, as long as for us, it feels like as long as it's not impeding on the baby, it's not impeding on you. Like, if we can just tuck away to find 5 minutes to ourselves, why is that an issue? But like, the crazy part about it is even having the conversation of like, hey, if I do this and this, can I just get like an hour to myself to go do this? Oh, well, I would love an hour to myself too. Like,
Well,
okay.
but yes, and I think that there's a lot to be said for, and I think there's a lot of women. I've heard this from many people who have had children. It's like the mom has to ask for permission to go take a shower, while the dad can just go take the shower, and can just go to the bathroom and sit in the bathroom for an hour.
That's something to be studied. Is like,
yeah,
why do we feel like we should need to ask? I can't just pick up and leave the room
Right.
and like leave my family and be like,
yeah,
I'm going in the bathroom for an hour.
Right.
Like,
Right.
but men don't feel the need to be like, hey, do you need John does most of the time. We'll say like, do you need anything before I go downstairs? Do you need anything before I go do this or whatever? But in the mornings, typically, like he'll get up, he'll get in the shower and like doesn't think a thing of it, right? And I'm like, well, I haven't showered in 3 days. I need to take a shower. Like,
Chris will go sit in the bathroom for 45 minutes, and I'm like, okay, well,
and we only
I
have a
need to
limited amount of time in the morning to
like
get the baby breakfast and do all those things and get ourselves ready for work. And
right.
I'm lucky I can work from home, and like most of the time I'm not on camera. I would say a quarter of my day I'm on camera, so I need to be somewhat presentable.
Yeah.
But to be able to like just walk away from everything that's going on and be like, I'm gonna go.
Well, yeah, and if you go take the shower, like you're bringing the baby in the bathroom with you and putting the baby in a little. We used to have like the bouncy seat.
Yeah.
I like that was my life. I had to take the baby with me and watch him, but like Chris could go and take his shower in peace and not be bothered. I mean, now it's very different now. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, hey, Christopher, mommy's got to go take a shower. Come on, let's go upstairs. And I'll put my TV on and he lays in my bed, or he plays in the bathroom on the floor with his cars. But there was a point where it was like I had to ask to step away, and that's where that like your life doesn't change, and like you can still just, oh, I'm gonna go for a drink after work. Great. I don't go to work. I work from home, so I don't get to like stop somewhere on my way home. And I'm,
Yeah.
I've got to go get our child because I work the normal shift, if you want to call it that. And so it was a lot of like lonely days and nights, and having a baby who was clingy and never got a break. And then to have to like even just ask, like, hey, I have to go take a shower, or can I go take a shower? Can I run to the store while you stay home? And like, whereas I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go do this. Guys can just like, they don't have to like think about those things or worry about who's going to watch the baby while they go take their shower. And we're the ones that are like, hey, can I go like 5 seconds? I'll literally I won't even take my clothes off. I'll just shower in my clothes, and you won't even know I'm gone.
So I guess one thing, no, Kristen,
I'll just splash some water on my face.
why you don't you just bathe like a cat?
You know, actually, you just take me outside and spread the hose on me, and actually, I don't need to go to the bathroom. Put me in a diaper. I'll just go here. I'll even change my own diaper when we're done. You don't even have to do that.
There's a litter box right over there. Go help yourself out. But like, okay, so I feel you on this because I literally like I've heard I was almost verbatim the same words from Melissa, right? Like you get to do this, you get to do this. Like what what can we do? So one thing I want to just make sure is clear, right? All of this that we're talking about is a season. It's literally
Yeah.
it's not when you're in it, it feels like, bro, this is gonna be life. This is forever.
Yeah.
Like it really is just a season. And I feel like sometimes couples actually don't like they call it a quits during this season where it's like it's a really it's probably in my opinion for people who are like just getting married and like they're just start it's probably in my opinion the roughest patch of your marriage that you will probably go through. But like it's like once you've gone through it once, even if you decide to have more kids, you at least know what it looks like. But that first child, when you go through that season, and it's like it just hits you like a blindsided bat. Like you have no idea where this is all coming from. You have no idea what to do. It's like literally you're just literally being bum rushed by everything, and you're just trying to fight your way out. And a lot of times, a lot of the stuff that happens during that season feels extremely personal. It feels like personal attacks here, personal attacks there. So eventually, you just start to harden. Battle hardened dad. You start to harden. You develop a callus towards it, and it just starts to kind of desensitize you a little bit to a point where you just feel like all the emotions from your partner become static. So now, with that said, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows like it's not for. It feels like yo. So if you're watching this and you're going through it, and it feels like this is forever, it's not going to be forever. It's going to pass. But while we're in the season, right? Like if you had to say, what's something my partner can do during the season, like, and make it like something where it's like tangible. Like what's a tangible thing with all these areas of concerns that you guys mentioned, right? Like the proactiveness, the sharing the same emotional response to information. Like, what is it that the guys can do or the dads can do during the season to make you feel like, okay, at least they're trying?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's going to depend. Well, I guess it depends on what is going on in that particular season, right? Like what in the
I think just
infant
keeping
stage, but yeah,
keep having conversations.
yeah.
I think you just need
communication,
Yeah.
right? Like that's huge. So, looking back, that was definitely not a thing that we did. So, it was especially in those early days where there was a lot of like anger and resentment towards somebody sleeping next to you, snoring away while the baby's screaming, and you're once again getting up. And so, obviously it's a lot different now. So we've grown and we've learned. We're in a new season. Yeah.
And
Now this season's a lot easier.
And for like any ladies that watch this, like don't like see the man sleeping and like grab a pillow and be like, this will be the last time he ever wakes up. Like if you see us sleeping, it's not because we're like, like this feels good. It's like in some ways we don't really know what our role is, and like in fairness to us too, like it's a it's a super nurturing time for baby and mother. Like they're really focusing on their relationship right now. I feel like dads are playing more of like the supportive role, but like again, there's no handbook. There is no, some of us don't even have guidance. Some of us don't even have a circle group that says, "Hey man, like when you bring that baby home, don't worry, like, if you're just know, if you're taking a nap, if you're saying, "Hey, I'm going to bed," just know what this is triggering to your wife, what that means. It doesn't mean you're wrong, it doesn't mean you're a bad guy. Just have an understanding of how she's receiving that. There's no one that says like, you know, check for your wife, make sure she's like, she's grooming herself, taking care of herself. Nobody tells you that. And then when you guys are already type A personalities, we assume you've been running this way before the baby. We're just gonna run right into it. So there's like a lot of like missed expectations and understanding, really because there's a lack of like guidance and information. And yes, communication would help, but you don't even know that you need to have the communication on this. So it's like that's where there's a lot of deltas, and that's why I'm like I'm hoping that this message finds people, like communicate. I've heard that multiple times, and I also had someone else on here who also had postpartum, and she said the biggest thing is to communicate with your partner throughout the whole pregnancy journey, and then to be vulnerable. It sounds like those two key elements could significantly help out and reduce friction where possible.
And if you're type A, like it's okay to give up the reins and everything doesn't need to be perfect all the time.
Yeah. Yo, let that go. So like if you're someone who's pregnant right now and like you're just thinking like, "Oh my gosh, the house is not this is not that." Like who's going to do the laundry? Like it will get done.
In 2 years, you're gonna look back and be like, I don't. There's like right now, I know at home there's like a package of wipes on the on the mantle and his toys and his binkies, and it's not the perfect Valentine's Day mantle that I had, 2 years ago that was perfectly curated and decorated, and it's not that anymore. It's gonna look different, and it's not gonna matter that your house wasn't dusted before the baby got here, or that it wasn't perfectly set up for the baby, or that it's not perfect now. Like you just gotta let go.
Right. Like even for Maverick, his bassinet wasn't set up when he was born. That was really embarrassing. But it wasn't set up when he was born, and I was too tired to set it up that night he was born, so we set up the next day. But like again, Melissa's been asking me to do it weeks before he came. She's been asking me to set it up for weeks and I didn't do it, right? So let me just give you also context. For me, a guy is probably thinking, like, you're asking me to set it up now, yeah, but like, dude, I got like the baby's not coming for like another, it's like 6 weeks. I got time. I'll do it. We're thinking about like we're thinking about doing it on like that Saturday before he's due. And then of course he comes on like the freaking Tuesday.
You were gonna just built it while she was giving birth. Yeah, it's fine.
So for us, I think also like the sense of urgency and like for us we make everything rational, right? Like why do I need to do this now when I can do it tomorrow? I mean, even though the Bible tells us like don't put a shelf tomorrow which you can do today, like we still naturally do that because we we feel like we have time. There's a I maybe there's a false sense of like how much time we do have. Because I'll tell you, like I remember when Melissa told me Maxine was pregnant, and then I felt like I blinked and she was here. And I'm like, I thought I had so much more time. Even the night she came, I was like, oh, I thought I had so much more time. And I was like, I'm not gonna tell Melissa this. But like I was just like, bro. And I remember Melissa was like, I told you you should have dropped the dogs off. And I was remember because the dogs were still here. And now I've got a doula. Sorry, I got two midwives and a doula just pacing around back and forth, carrying things. Dogs are like, what's going on? There's screaming happening. Maverick is running around. Absolutely chaotic. But I will say this. We managed the chaos. We had good support. Like it was okay at the end of the day. It's not something that I think about where it's like, oh, we were totally unprepared. Like there's no test score later. And like even if you do all these things to be prepared, are you even truly 100% prepared?
No, but I think that, and maybe there's a reason for this, but like knowing that something in an uncertain time in your life, when you're going into a new space where you are a mother or father and you don't know what to expect, like, and maybe this is a trauma response for me, but like, I need to know that there's some kind of organization to the chaos so that I can go into this new situation and feel prepared, at least in some way. So like, to be prepared before the baby gets here helps alleviate some stress and anxiety for me, because at least I know that what I can control is controlled and the rest of it is unknown, and that's going to be whatever it is anyway. The stuff that I can control, that's the stuff that I need to make sure is okay and done and safe and is prepared for the baby, and just in general, that's how I function in life, is like I'd rather be prepared than unprepared and then walk into a situation that I have no idea what to expect on top of it and add more stress to the situation.
Let me ask, is it possible to invite your partner into these conversations without you being frustrated if you're the one that has to initiate it? Like, would that frustrate you if you were the one who's like, oh, what are we gonna do for education? What are we gonna do for daycare? Like, who's gonna work? Like, if you're the ones initiating most of those conversations, would that frustrate you? And then the second part is, let's talk about how if you feel like that's a frustration for you, how can we get your partner to, you know, potentially make some proactive moves in a confident way? And I can share some ideas, but I wanted to hear your guys' first.
I think looking at her because she's the one with all the answers. Listen, yes, it would frustrate me to have to like be the one, because that means you're thinking of all those things. Like you're the one that is running, right? It's all running through your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, daycare, right? Who's going to call the daycares and try to find availability?
And you don't know what you don't know, too. To that, like, and I hate to like play devil's advocate, but like, if you don't know the things, like men don't know.
No, I know.
They have to call a year in advance to get on a daycare list. They don't know that, and maybe we wouldn't know that if we didn't work in daycare. But like, there's certain things that like through life experiences, and that's how you move through life, is that you go based on experience. So like, yes, it could just be that you don't know what you don't know, but I also, like, in my head, I'm like, well, you lived a whole life too. Like, right, so why don't you bring your experiences into this? And like, what would you have done if you were just raising this baby by yourself? Like,
Okay.
and you needed care for him. Like,
Can I give you an analogy? Okay, so let's say the Incredible Hulk and Superman, right? Those are both superheroes, right? Can the Incredible Hulk fly?
No.
No, he cannot. He has a different superpower.
Right.
Superman can fly, and Superman's weakness is also kryptonite. Now, they're both superheroes. They both have different superpowers, but none is greater than the other. They're both equally the same. They're both equally superheroes. So what I'm trying to, my point of saying all that is, maybe you guys have a superpower that we don't have. We have other superpowers where we put those things, but in this scenario, in this season, it's like if Superman were Incredible Hulk, we're going into the Kryptonite cave. Well, Superman can't really be super effective in the Kryptonite cave because it's a weakness for him. But the Hulk can push through. But the Hulk's not going to look back at Superman and be like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you here? Like, dude, once you get us through this cave, Incredible Hulk, I can then regain my powers again. And I can then be the superhero I once was. I'm no less of a superhero. It's just that your superpowers right now in this season are going to be dominant. So what if that's also the case where during this season, women have the super... I mean, you just produced a whole human. So, I mean, you have a superpower that's happening right now. It's not the same superpower we have. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can fly through the air and do all these tricks and left and right. And we're like, ugh. And you're just like, dude, like, flap your freaking arms. And you're just yelling at us. We're like, I can't do it, boss. Like, I can't swim like you can. I can't fly like you can. So I feel like What if you looked at it from that angle? Would that still frustrate you if your partner's on the same par, knowing that, hey, I have the upper hand here because I have a superpower?
It's hard when you feel like that you have all of the superpowers all of the time. Yeah. And
You feel like you have the superpowers all
like
of
we
the
ain't
time.
always in the kryptonite cave. Like
Right.
yeah, I mean it feels I won't say that so much for me all the time, but I can speak for other relationships and I can speak for where it just feels like you're handling everything all the time. And it may be just because I've had the life experiences where I know what to do in those situations and I've lived more of a life than maybe my partner has. But I think it begins to get taxing when you feel like you're the only one with all the superpowers. And like, is it just weaponizing competence? Like, is it just like, I don't like.
But
Yeah.
okay, but then what if you say, I have all the superpower, but I have a superhero with me? So I can make a decision that says I can work with my superhero so that way he has the same capability, or not necessarily the same capabilities, but they're fulfilling their superpowers to their full potential. So we're fighting crime at the same time. Instead of me just taking the lead first, let's do some off-season. Let's go behind the doors and like work on your superpowers so they do get stronger, so we can fight crime together. And it doesn't sometimes feel like, hey, I've got to be the only one fighting the crime. And sometimes superheroes also have undiscovered superpowers, right? And you got to consider too, like, sometimes you don't discover those superpowers until you're forced into it. Like if you look at some of these like movies, like even X-Men, right? Like sometimes you got to fall out of a building or something like that before you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had that. Or
I
sometimes,
fell out of a lot of buildings, and I think that's why we feel like we have all those superpowers, because I do think it's like if you've lived these experiences and you've been through things, like you know how to move and shake through these things, like you know what to do in these situations, which is great, but not when you got to drag everybody else along with you and guide the way and constantly have the mental load of managing it all.
what if you were to take a scenario where you were like, you know what? I'm not gonna fight crime today. I'm gonna let my partner fight the crime. Not because I don't care, but because I also want them to strengthen their superpower and be able to fight the same crime. I'll be there.
Great. That's where you have to let go of the reins. Like that's where I
I'll be there just in case you fall, but I'm gonna let you go and fight the crime yourself today. Like, and I'm making these analogies because it's true, but like I'm trying to like make these conversations more like, okay, you believe in me. You think I have this capability. You have not more of like, hey, you believe in me, less of like, oh, why don't you get this? Like, I believe you can do it. I think you can do it. I am confident in you. And
well,
let
I
me,
think of it. I always think of it as like it's like leading a team at work, right? Like you always try to figure out what everyone's strengths are and like play on those, right? Like, but that's where like the conversation piece comes in. Like you have to sit down and have a conversation and say like, listen, I think you're really good at X, Y, and Z. Like I'm really good at. What do you think I'm good at? Like I'm really good at X, Y, and Z. Like okay, how can we accomplish this list of shit that we got to get through together in the easiest way possible and the most balanced way possible, and not make me feel like I'm the only one doing it all, right? Or the only one carrying the mental load of it all. But I think that's you just have to have conversations and have open communication with each other.
and it's okay to stroke your man's ego too in the process. Look at the faces. Why? Listen,
It's the neck. It's the goddamn neck problem. Oh my god.
Your heads were about you're like your heads were about to explode. What? It's okay.
Oh god.
Why? Nothing feels better to a man than when your partner strokes your ego. It feels 10x than any woman could do on the street because this woman actually has equity in you and she's with you. So when that person who has equity in you says, you know what, that's like someone saying, hey, I'm gonna double down on you. I paid $100 for you, but your your stock has gone up in me. So here's like another 50. That's like, like that's like boosting a man's ego. When you boost a man's ego, it's not so he can use his ego against you. He's like, I feel like there's this weird fear, like I'm not gonna build you up just so you can like come back and cut me down. It's more of like if you push confidence in me, that man's gonna want to go do 10x. He's gonna be like, oh well, if she like this, she's gonna love when I do this, and it's just gonna continue to drive him forward. Like men are motivated by certain things women do. Like people have fought wars over women, right? So like I just why I'm telling you, you guys have superpowers. Like you don't have to use brute force to get your point. Like you have superpowers and you have the ability to really kind of like shepherd us into the space you need us to be. It sometimes, yes, it does take a little bit of legwork, but it's only legwork for you guys because you have the superpower in this case. There's when your car breaks down, who has a superpower? When something goes wrong that like
Still me.
when your car breaks down, who has a superpower? When the oil needs to be changed, who has a superpower? Like all these different things that like we are here for as a men.
Okay, fine.
He gets that one. Okay. He
Like,
does change my oil, all right? Or
yeah.
he takes my car to get it
Like,
changed.
yeah, so it's like I'm sure there's other stuff too, and most of all, making you feel protected and safe, right? Like that's our superpower. Like you're
True.
not gonna run out the door first if like someone's knocking at the door.
Sorry. We're getting punchy now. The real us is coming out now.
Right.
We held it together for this podcast, and now we're like, you want me to stroke my man's ego now, and you got to change my oil.
Yeah. Listen, I appreciate you guys coming on tonight. We've been rocking for some time. I think we should have some follow-ups if you guys are interested, because I think this was some fruitful conversations and things that I think people will take away. And I think that people are going to want to come back and be like, yeah, like let's talk more about like expectations and things like that, because I still think there's some grass to cover there. But thank you guys again for coming on this evening. We'll talk soon. Don't hang up yet. When you think about customer experience, right, and you think about big brands and you think about how they're managing their customers and a lot of companies are starting to kind of become flat across the board with their competitors, like meaning like we offer the same thing, right? So how are customers starting to kind of differentiate? They're differentiating based on the relationship they have with that brand. And really the relationship doesn't get tested until what? Something happens, something goes wrong. Because until something goes wrong, I can always say my relationship's going fine. And when something goes wrong, you know what happens? You know what gets in the way of the relationship, which could sever us, is policies. Policies always get in the way of the relationship. It's not our policy to do this. I have to talk to a manager to do that. If I'm been a customer with American Airlines for 30 years, and I spend annually $5,000 a year between flying for personal and business, and maybe there's a mishap that happened on my side. Maybe I had an unfortunate event on my side, and maybe I didn't buy the travel insurance. Well, technically, policy is, hey, we can't help you, right? But I've been a customer for 30 years, and I spend $5,000 a year on you guys. So now what you've done is you put policy ahead of our relationship, and that shouldn't be the case. What I'm proposing in the future is you get rid of policies across the board, and you go and you use AI and you use machine learning and you have more relationships and you find a solution for the customer based on that relationship with them. So for example, if I'm a customer and I've been with you for 30 plus years and I'm spending X amount of money, should there be a policy that causes us to sever our ties, or should you have some sort of relationship that says, hey, listen, I want to keep you coming for the next 10 to 15 years. So I'm okay if I'm refunding you this $150 trip because this relationship holds so much more value to me than this $150 trip. So, and the same thing I feel like goes for like, hotels as well, right? Like you guys, all these companies have all this data. You know how the relationship is. You have all these data points. Like why not leverage that in a way to say, hey, look, this has been a customer with us for 30 years. They spend a lot of money with us. We're going to do this. And then if you have a customer, maybe you have someone who's chronically impacting your bottom line negatively, like you constantly do returns, you're constantly canceling, you're constantly calling our customer service center, which is driving up a cost to the business. Maybe we need to sever our tie. We use it as an opportunity to say, okay, maybe the relationship's not working with us. We can honor your request now, but we won't be able to do it in the future, right? Now what you're doing is you're setting you're telling the person, hey, this is where our boundary is in the relationship. I'm going to do this for you now, but we can't do this again in the future. And if you feel like you have to do it again in the future, then you need to walk. There's no policy there. It's a relationship. I will stay with something, I will stay with someone if I feel like you're pouring fruit, right? Like, relationships are not static. Things happen. And if every time something happens in our relationship, whether I'm with an airline company, I'm with a utility company, I'm with my telecommunications company, if every single time you throw policy in my face and it works against me, well, we're not really in a fruitful relationship. We're in a fruitful relationship if things kind of cultivate and develop over time. So that's really what I want to talk about in the future. Hopefully that made sense to you guys. So when we talk about like AI and what it needs to be in the future, this is something that where we need to transition AI into is replacing policy. Replacing policy. And I have to work on getting some more data to support my theory, but that's what I think is going to happen over the next couple of years. You want to return that couch that you bought 5 years ago? I mean, yeah, sure, why not, dude? Like, you've been a customer of ours for 20 years. Bring it down. I'll take the L if you keep coming here, right? There's no guarantee, but it's again, it's based on you're also incentivizing the customer to continue to cultivate the relationship, right? It's everybody has to be pouring into it, right? I'm going to continue spending money with you as long as every time I have an issue, you're able to support me in one way, shape, or form. And there's a balance here in the relationship. It's not just me pouring out to you, just like we were talking about earlier with the pregnancy. It's like it can't just be one person being the superhero. I can't just be the only one that's doing something. You have to do your part too. And you can do your part by every time something goes bad, you're there to support me. Because it's not like it's every day. And you're lucky if I have something go bad once a year. That might even be a stretch. So if that one time I come to you, you throw policy in my face, that's going to work against me. Yo, as soon as somebody else is looking hot on the street, I'm out of here. So if you want, you have to pour back into me. It's just like I'm pouring into you. Okay, that's my spiel. Okay. All right, bring your slides, Smith.